Chapter 23-21. Lungyu Inscription City Lord looked at Luo Qingtong. If he wasn't wrong, that inscription pattern just now was a spirit restriction inscription. Song Cheng's disciple was actually a spirit seal master. Lungyu Inscription City Lord was shocked to the extreme. At this moment, he didn't believe that Luo Qingtong was Song Cheng's disciple at all. This was definitely an external aid that Tianfeng Inscription City had invited from outside, just like their Lungyu Inscription City's Master Chun. However, wasn't the other party a little too young? Looking at this hand and the exposed chin, this degree of smoothness and firmness, he didn't look like a respected master at all. How could he be so powerful? Moreover, the other party even called Song Chung Master. Shouldn't such an inscription expert be proud and arrogant? Even if he came to help Tianfeng Inscription City, why would he lower himself and call Song Chung Master? Moreover, this fellow Song Chung was an inscription trash. In Lungyu Inscription City Lord's heart, he couldn't understand what was going on. However, this didn't stop him from threatening the other party with a stern voice. Who are you? I advise you to not interfere in the matters of our Lungyu Inscription City and Tianfeng Inscription City. Our Lungyu Inscription City also has a spirit seal master. Moreover, Lungyu Inscription City Lord sneered and raised his head. Our Lungyu Inscription City's Master Chun is related to the 3-star domain. Lungyu Inscription City Lord said with a strong appearance, but his heart was beating like a drum. He also didn't know where Luo Qingtong came from. This Yechi seemed to have suddenly popped out and directly wanted to help Tianfeng Inscription City. Originally, Lungyu Inscription City Lord didn't put her in his eyes. He only thought that she was a little disciple that Song Chung had met outside. She didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and wanted to help Tianfeng Inscription City. Previously, when he was outside, he deliberately provoked Luo Qingtong to sign a bet with him. He even thought that his method was great. However, at this moment, looking at Luo Qingtong who appeared on the 5th floor with Song Chung, Lungyu Inscription City Lord's heart felt a chill. His body shuddered violently, and his heart was filled with extreme regret. The bet he made with Luo Qingtong was probably the thing he regretted the most in his entire life. He recalled that he had previously said that as long as Song Chung defeated him, he would atone for his sins with his death. Not only that, he also wanted everyone from Lungyu Inscription City to cripple their own inscription techniques. His heart trembled when he heard that. He looked at Song Chung, who was standing next to Luo Qingtong. He no longer had the confidence he had before. He originally thought that the inscription pattern trash had actually reached the 5th level. Was this Song Chung pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Or was Xie Qi's strength unfathomable? He was actually able to turn something rotten into something magical and raise Song Cheng's strength to such a powerful level. How'd he do it? Just when Lungyu City Lord's heart was filled with cold sweat and his back was drenched in sweat, Luo Qingtong indifferently said to Song Chung, "Master, I'll leave him to you. These people are also up to you to deal with." Luo Qingtong's last sentence was naturally referring to those high-level inscriptionists of Lungyu Inscription City who had their inscription techniques restricted by her. Luo Qingtong didn't forget that the people from Tianfeng Inscription City were all stuck on the 3rd floor of the inscription tower. These high-level inscriptionists of Lungyu Inscription City were all part of it. She wouldn't let a single one of them go. They were all handed over to Song Chung to deal with. Chapter 23-22. When Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Song Cheng's voice also sounded. "Don't worry, disciple. Leave this matter to me." Song Chung didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would actually help him to this extent. When he saw Lungyu City Lord and the others on the 5th floor, he didn't have any confidence in dealing with them. But now, with Luo Qingtong's help, those senior inscriptionists in Lungyu City were crippled. Without their help, Song Chung was still very confident in dealing with Lungyu Ming when alone. As for those senior inscriptionists in Lungyu City, he wouldn't let them off. He would definitely let them experience the same pain and despair as the inscriptionists in Tianfeng Inscription City. And Luo Qingtong nodded her head when Song Cheng's voice sounded and then rushed towards the sixth floor. The black-clothed man in Lungyu City wasn't here. It was obvious that he was on the sixth floor. That black-clothed man's strength had indeed reached the level of a spirit printmaster. Those people in Lungyu City weren't wrong about this. Seeing Luo Qingtong's figure rushing towards the sixth floor, Lungyu City Lord subconsciously wanted to stop her. However, before he could make a move, Song Chung had already blasted out an inscription pattern and stopped him. City Lord Lu, your opponent is me. Why are you looking at my disciple? Don't worry, you're still not my disciple's match. You should be glad that my disciple doesn't have time to deal with you. Otherwise, you'll definitely know what a blow is. Song Chung said with a face full of arrogance. In fact, it was true. Song Chung had never seen a monstrous inscription genius like Luo Qingtong. It was as if the other party was born for inscriptions. No, not only inscriptions. Luo Qingtong was equally powerful no matter if it was pills or formations. The young girl's talent, in Song Cheng's eyes, was the best in the world. No one could compare to her. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Song Cheng wouldn't dare to believe it. Song Cheng, he's definitely not your disciple. Who is he? Lungyu City Lord's face was filled with anger. He didn't expect that Xie Qi would appear out of nowhere. The other party had never appeared before the inscription tower. Not to mention that this young man had the strength of a spirit printmaster at such a young age. How could such a person be Song Cheng's disciple? This was absolutely impossible. The other party must be hiding his identity. However, Lung Yuan did not expect that Luo Qingtong had indeed hidden her identity. But that was only because her status was too low and she didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. If he knew that Luo Qingtong's identity was just a young girl from a low-level continent in the 9-star domain, his expression would be even more incredulous. After all, it was such a remote and backward star field. As far as they knew, there were almost no inscription masters. Even an ordinary inscription master apprentice would be able to call the wind and summon the rain and be sought after by others. How could a spirit print master like Luo Qingtong be from there? Therefore, Lung Yuan did not think in that direction at all. He only thought that Luo Qingtong was from a higher star field. He also didn't know that the strength that Luo Qingtong displayed at this moment was only because her understanding of inscriptions was more powerful. Chapter 23:23. However, even if Song Chung said such a thing, he might not believe it. Hence, Song Chung was too lazy to answer. It's not up to you to know what kind of person my disciple is. Lu Zhitong, just wait for your bad luck this time. As Song Chung spoke, he rushed towards Lung Yu, Inscription City Lord. Before Luo Qingtong left, she told him that there was a time limit to his inscription skills. She told him not to delay for too long and to deal with Lung Yu, Inscription City Lord first. Although Song Chung already knew that the improvement of his inscription skills was related to Luo Qingtong, when he heard it from Luo Qingtong, he still couldn't hide the shock in his heart. This disciple of his was really incredible. This time, their Tianfeng Inscription City might really be able to defend the inscription tower. Just as Song Chung was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong's figure had already entered the 6th floor. Boom! The pressure on the 6th floor of the inscription tower was much stronger than the one on the 5th floor. As soon as Luo Qingtong's figure appeared on it, she was instantly frozen on the spot by a terrifying aura of suppression that came crashing down. The aura that was enveloped by the aura was completely related to the understanding of a spirit print master's inscription marks and realms. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong had read a lot of inscription books in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. At this moment, the blood-red light in her eyes flickered violently. Very quickly, she dissolved the aura that was enough to blast an ordinary senior inscription master out and crush them on the spot. Swish! Waves of aura lingered around Luo Qingtong and turned into an aura of inscription power that she could use. This was the magical part of the inscription tower. It was used to train and strengthen the understanding of an inscription master's inscription techniques. As long as your inscription technique comprehension and realms reached the standard, Even if your strength wasn't enough, you could use the power of this realm. If this was in the outside world, it was absolutely impossible. After all, the aura of inscription techniques in the outside world required a corresponding strength to break it. It was completely different from the inscription tower. When Luo Qingtong appeared on the 6th level, at the entrance of the 6th and 7th levels, Master Qin's figure was also shrouded in a black cloak. He looked at the entrance greedily and passionately. "The 7th floor, that thing is in there. It's a pity," Master Qin said as he took a big step forward. However, he had just taken this step. Wong. The light shrouding the entrance to the 7th floor buzzed and suddenly grew stronger. In an instant, it landed on his body. Countless inscriptions lit up on Master Qin's body. The strength of a heaven-grade spirit seal master and his understanding of inscription patterns were revealed, but he still couldn't resist the pressure from his 7th floor. He didn't even manage to block it for a moment before he was sent flying by the terrifying aura. If it wasn't for the fact that his understanding of inscription patterns and strength were strong enough, this attack would have been enough to blast him out of the inscription tower. "I still can't get in. This 7th floor is indeed not something that ordinary people can enter." Master Chan got up from the ground and looked at the 7th floor without any surprise. There were a total of 7 floors in the inscription tower. As long as one's strength reached a certain level, they could enter the first 6 floors. However, since ancient times, only the most outstanding genius disciples were able to enter the 7th floor. Chapter 23-24. It was said that the president of the Central Inscription Union had tried it before, but he was unable to enter. However, it was precisely because of this that the thing he wanted was kept inside and not taken away by anyone. As Master Qin thought about it, he wasn't so angry anymore. "Looks like I can only wait for the people of Lungyu City to obtain the inscription tower before I think of a way to take the thing out." As he thought about it, he instantly got up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his lips, and closed his eyes to rest. In any case, it was almost impossible for anyone to defeat him in the inscription tower. Apart from the city lord of Tianfeng Inscription City, it was impossible for anyone to come up to the 6th floor of the inscription tower. The latter had already self-detonated his inscription mark during the previous battle for the inscription tower. Not to mention that he didn't come this time. Even if he did, he would only be beaten up. It was impossible for him to compete with him. Not to mention that he had learned his lesson last time. This time, he would absolutely not give the other party any chance to make a comeback. After all, it was easy to be discovered as long as the thing in the inscription tower wasn't taken out. At that time, his painstaking effort to conceal his identity and come to such a low-level inscription city to seize the inscription tower would be in vain. While Master Chan closed his eyes to rest and recover from the injuries in his body, not far away from the 6th floor of the inscription tower, Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold as she looked in his direction. This black-clothed man is actually a heaven-level spirit seal master. Little Pig, who was perched on her shoulder, muttered softly. "Fortunately, you weren't rash and directly fought with him. Otherwise, we would be in big trouble." When Little Pig saw Master Chan resisting the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, he was also shocked by the aura of the inscription patterns that rippled out from his body. With the inscription ability of a heaven-level spirit seal master, his status in the Central Inscription Union wouldn't be low. Why would he suddenly appear in Tianfeng Inscription City and even fight for the inscription tower for the people of Lungyu City? Logically speaking, the inscription tower was of no help to him at all. If it was a 9-story inscription tower in the Central Inscription Union, it might be of some help to him. This person is definitely plotting something here. It whispered in front of Luo Qingtong. The latter glanced at it and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. Was there a need for it to say that? She could tell too. Otherwise, why would a heaven-grade spirit seal master appear here? Previously, Luo Qingtong also thought that if she knew her enemy, she could win 100 battles. Therefore, she deliberately sneaked over without alerting the black-clothed man. She wanted to see what he was doing here. If the other party wanted to get the human martial level battle inscription mark, she could have interfered and sabotaged it. She didn't expect to see such a scene. This Master Chun wants the item on the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked in the direction of the entrance to the 7th floor. Wherever her gaze landed, her blood-red eyes trembled slightly, as if she wanted to see through the scene. However, the light that shrouded the entrance to the 7th floor was so strong that Luo Qingtong couldn't see through it, and that Master Chun was sitting near the entrance, so she couldn't walk over to take a closer look. She also couldn't fully activate her blood-red eyes. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if she didn't see the entrance to the 7th floor and alerted the other party. Chapter 23-25. Suddenly, Master Chun made a move. Looking at his appearance, it seemed like he still wanted to try and see if he could enter the 7th floor. However, this was normal. He was the only one on the 6th floor. Master Chun didn't need to practice inscription patterns here. Under such circumstances, instead of staying here and doing nothing, he might as well try and see if he could enter the 7th floor. Therefore, Luo Qingtong watched as he continued to walk towards the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked at Master Chin's movements, and the bloody light in her eyes flickered. All of a sudden, her eyes lit up and she laughed. That's it. She snuck up behind Master Chun and made sure that she was in his blind spot. He wouldn't be able to see her or see her movements, so she made her move. Boom! When Master Chun took a step forward and blocked the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern also hit the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes allowed her to copy the aura of anyone's inscription pattern. Her inscription pattern was exactly the aura of Master Chin's inscription pattern. Master Chun was entangled with the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, and the aura of the inscription patterns around him was desperately attacking the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. With so many inscription patterns entangled with each other, Master Chun didn't notice anything wrong with the aura of Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern. Boom! After Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern was blasted out, Master Chun was obviously able to withstand the light at the entrance of the 7th floor for a moment longer. Then, with a boom, he was blown away again. However, this time, Master Chun was overjoyed. The light at the entrance of the 7th floor was shaken. Master Chun was pleasantly surprised by the revelation. He had already tried several times at the entrance. The feeling was the same every time. However, this time, he clearly felt that the light at the entrance was weakened. Could it be that his attack was effective? Did he accidentally hit a certain part of the entrance, and that was why it was shaken? If that was the case, didn't it mean that he might be able to enter and obtain that item this time? Thinking of this, Master Chun was very excited. If he could, of course, he wanted to take that thing away as soon as possible. Although they could wait until the people of Lungyu City obtained the inscription tower, they could slowly study it and take it away. But in this way, the longer he stayed, the more likely his identity would be exposed. If others were to find out that he had obtained this item, it would be a huge disaster. Thinking of this, Master Chun immediately made up his mind. He didn't even care about healing himself as he rushed toward the entrance of the 7th level. Looking at his action, Luo Qingtong raised her eyes slightly. Following her previous action, she continued to cooperate with him and blasted the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. The power of the inscription pagoda that she could control was not as strong as Master Chen's, but she had the eye's sorcery. Chapter 23-26. Every attack from Luo Qingtong could help Master Chun shake the entrance to the 7th floor a little. How could Master Chun not be excited when he saw this scene? He originally thought that it would be impossible for him to break through the light at the entrance to the 7th floor in a short period of time. However, at this moment, with the assistance of Luo Qingtong, he saw the hope of breaking through. Immediately, his confidence increased greatly, and the strength of his attacks became even more powerful than before. Originally, he was afraid that he would hurt his foundation at the entrance to the 7th floor of the inscription tower, so he didn't dare to forcefully attack. Every time he tried to attack, he would hold back. Therefore, when he was sent flying by the light at the entrance to the 7th floor, he wouldn't be injured. After all, the light at the entrance to the 7th floor was reflected according to the attacker's strength. If someone who didn't meet the requirements entered, even someone as strong as the president of the Central Inscription Association would be sent flying with a single blow. If Master Chun used all his strength to attack, if he couldn't break through the light at the entrance to the 7th floor, he would definitely be seriously injured by the rebound of the attack. Therefore, when he attacked, he left some leeway. However, at this moment, seeing that he had hope of breaking through to the 7th floor, how could he hold back? Naturally, he would attack with all his strength so that he could successfully break through to the 7th floor. In this way, even if he was seriously injured, it didn't matter. Therefore, after a few consecutive attempts, Master Chun found that his strength was indeed able to shake the entrance to the 7th floor. Moreover, with Luo Qingtong's conscious cooperation, he felt that his attacks were becoming more and more effective. Immediately, he was wild with joy. In the end, he used all of his strength. All the inscription marks of a heaven-level spirit print master were mobilized in his body, and one powerful inscription pattern after another floated outside his body. Each of them was enough to kill an inscription master below the heaven-level spirit print master. Looking at the aura of the power of the inscription tower that was lingering around him, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed slightly. The opponent's strength was indeed powerful, and not something an ordinary spirit print master could compare to. Although Luo Qingtong's inscription comprehension was comparable to an ordinary spirit print master, she could only comprehend it and had never fought against an expert of the same level. Not to mention that Master Chun was one of the most powerful heavenly level spirit print masters. Although Little Pig didn't specifically tell Luo Qingtong about the division of spirit printer masters above advanced rune masters, Luo Qingtong knew that Luo Qingtong was a spirit printer master. However, Luo Qingtong understood the meaning of its words. Spirit print masters were divided into 3 realms: heaven, earth, and mortal, just like the 3 realms of martial artists. In that case, this Master Chen's true inscription ability was probably above many spirit print masters. If Luo Qingtong were to fight against him, even with her eye technique analysis, she would not be his opponent. After all, the other party's inscription comprehension and experience were extremely powerful. But Luo Qingtong didn't have any experience as a spirit print master. This was a most fatal. Without experience, she might not be able to win against her opponent in terms of the conversion of the power of the inscription tower. If the other party's inscription pattern and power were stronger than hers, then it would be troublesome. But now, Luo Qingtong chuckled as she watched Master Chen prepare for the final attack. It was obvious that after a series of probing, the other party had made up his mind to stake it all on one throw. Chapter 23-27. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and dispersed the power of the inscription pagoda in her hand. She calmly watched as Master Chun prepared for his final attack. Boom! Master Chun had gathered all the power of the inscription pagoda that he could mobilize in his attack. The pressure of the inscription pagoda that he had just endured was all converted into the inscription patterns that surrounded his body. At the same time, all the power in his body was poured into the inscription patterns around him. With a boom, he blasted towards the entrance of the 7th floor. Bang! His power landed heavily on the entrance of the 7th floor, but it did not weaken the light of the entrance of the 7th floor as he had imagined. On the contrary, without Luo Qingtong's attack to help target the weakness, the light of the entrance of the 7th floor was dozens of times stronger than Master Chen's previous attack. Before Master Chun could react, he was sent flying by the rebounding force. His body was sent flying high into the air and smashed backward like a kite with a broken string. Along the way, the wind that his body cut through whistled like a ghost. Not only that, but he also spat out a large mouthful of blood. The skin all over his body burst open with numerous small wounds, and a large amount of blood spurted out. It was obvious that he was severely injured by the rebounding light of the entrance of the 7th floor. When Master Chan was sent flying, he was completely dumbfounded. He could not understand how the entrance of the 7th floor, which had become smoother and more shaken under his bombardment, had suddenly recovered its previous toughness and strength. The result of his attack should not be like this. Just as he was in a daze and did not know what was going on, he spat out blood and retreated. Luo Qingtong made her move. She had lured Master Chen step by step to use an even stronger force to bombard the light of the entrance of the 7th floor. It was all for this moment. The power of the inscription pagoda around him had been exhausted, and he had also inscribed countless inscription patterns in an instant. He had not been able to recover for the time being. In her eyes, Master Chun was even weaker than an ordinary spirit print master. Boom! A huge inscription pattern appeared around Luo Qingtong. This time, she didn't use the spirit restriction inscription from before. After all, that kind of inscription pattern was only useful for inscriptionists below the level of spirit print master. Since they were both spirit seal masters, they had their own ways to deal with it. Not to mention that Master Chun was a heavenly level spirit seal master. If Luo Qingtong had the thought of restraining his inscription pattern ability and keeping him here to torture him, she would be the unlucky one in the end. After all, she only had one chance to attack Master Chun in this one moment. Once he missed it, he would immediately be able to redirect the pressure within the inscription pagoda. At the same time, he would utilize his own comprehension of inscription patterns to draw inscription patterns around him one after another. It was sufficient to cancel out Luo Qingtong's attack. After all, Luo Qingtong's inscription comprehension was only at the level of a spirit print master. Therefore, Luo Qingtong chose to copy the inscription pattern that Master Chun had used just now. The inscription patterns that Master Chun had drawn in order to break through the entrance of the 7th floor covered all the levels of spirit print masters. He had used all the inscription patterns that could be drawn from the level of spirit print master to the level of a heavenly level spirit print master. There was no room for negotiation. Chapter 23-28. When Master Chun saw Luo Qingtong rush out, he was shocked, angry, and disdainful. He was shocked and angry that Luo Qingtong could appear on the 6th floor of the inscription tower. He was disdainful that the other party overestimated herself and wanted to make a move on him, even if he would be injured by the light of the entrance to the 7th floor. His inscription skills weren't something that a fledgling brat could hurt. So what if the other party could enter the 6th floor? She was probably the same as the Tian Feng Inscription City Lord, who was just close to the strength of a Spirit Seal Master. With such an inscription comprehension ability, even if he didn't have any strength and took her attack head-on, it would only worsen his injuries a little. When he recovered, he would let the other party know the price of provoking him. Killing geniuses was also one of his favorite things to do. With that thought in mind, Master Chun cracked a sinister smile. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a vicious and cold gaze. However, soon his gaze changed. He was shocked and aghast. How is this possible? He looked at the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong blasted out in disbelief. The aura on it was his own. It was exactly the same as the inscription pattern that he blasted out. How did the other party do it? When he saw the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong blasted out, Master Chun understood why the light at the entrance to the 7th floor had been shaken. You did it. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. It turned out that the other party had been scheming against him from the beginning. But how did she do it? She copied the aura of his inscription pattern. No wonder he didn't notice it at all. Master Chun was shocked and furious to the extreme. He watched as the inscription pattern that carried his aura and power blasted towards him. But he couldn't resist it, and it was too late to dodge. He had no choice but to grit his teeth. In an instant, a huge light inscription pattern flew out from his body. Natal inscription mark. Every spirit print master would condense an inscription pattern when he or she was promoted to a higher level. This inscription pattern maintained the inscription master's comprehension and usage of the inscription technique. Once the life inscription mark was destroyed, that inscription master would be crippled as a martial artist. He had a belly full of comprehension of inscriptions, but he had no way to use them. The Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord from before had his life inscription mark destroyed. Even if his inscription comprehension was still there, he couldn't use it anymore. However, Master Chin's last request was to make him unable to touch and teach the last bit of knowledge about inscriptions. In this life, he was completely cut off from the inscription pattern technique. That was why Song Chung and the others were so agitated and indignant. At the same time, Master Chin summoned his life inscription mark. With a loud boom, the life inscription mark clashed with Luo Qingtong's inscription mark. Ka. A series of cracking sounds came, and the natal inscription mark summoned by Master Chin instantly cracked. Bastard! Xie, you deserve to die. Master Chin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The life inscription mark was extremely fragile. Ordinary spirit print masters would keep it in their bodies and wouldn't release it easily. After all, once the life inscription mark was broken, he would be crippled. However, at this moment, under the attack of Luo Qingtong's inscription mark, his life inscription mark was severely injured. Chapter 23-29. Brat, how dare you? Master Chin's anger had reached its peak. His killing intent towards Luo Qingtong was blazing. Boom! The aura of the inscriptions around his body erupted at this moment. He had taken advantage of the moment when his inscription mark blocked Luo Qingtong's attack to condense and transform a new aura of the inscription tower. Bang! The inscription pattern condensed around his body instantly blasted towards Luo Qingtong. However, compared to the inscription pattern he had condensed before, the aura of the inscription pattern was much weaker. Firstly, he had hurriedly transformed the aura of the inscription tower, so there wasn't much of it. Secondly, the inscription mark in his body had been damaged, so the inscription power he could unleash in this place had plummeted. From a heaven-level spirit print master, his strength had dropped to the level of a human-level spirit print master. Even if he had a heaven-level spirit print master's inscription comprehension, he wouldn't be able to unleash it. After all, unless he wanted to completely shatter the inscription mark in his body, he wouldn't be able to unleash an inscription power that exceeded what his inscription mark could bear. Otherwise, there was no need for Luo Qingtong to make a move, and he would become a cripple himself. With that thought in mind, Master Chan was enraged. Ordinary spirit print masters wouldn't be forced to such a state. Even if spirit print masters of the same level fought, they wouldn't hurt their own inscription mark. However, he was in the inscription tower, and he had met such a weirdo like Luo Qingtong. Not only did she scheme to make him lose all his power, she even copied and used the power of his inscription pattern. Unless Master Chan wanted to be blown out of the inscription tower by Luo Qingtong's attack, he could only use his inscription mark to fight. Bastard! Master Chin's anger had reached its peak. He looked at the youth holding a fan in front of him, and the coldness and killing intent in his eyes were unusually cold. The other party's background was strange, and his ability was powerful. He was definitely not ordinary. You are not from the Tianfeng Inscription City. His tone was cold as he said with certainty. You are also here for that thing inside. As Master Chin spoke, the killing intent in his heart burned even more fiercely. What's Song Cheng's disciple? What's Xie? That was just a cover for the other party. The other party was definitely here for the items in the inscription tower. His goal was the same as his. Otherwise, Master Chin couldn't understand why Luo Qingtong, with her strength and ability, would be willing to stand up for the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City and even consider herself as Song Cheng's disciple. However, he did not expect that Luo Qingtong was really Song Cheng's disciple. And the thing he was talking about, Luo Qingtong didn't even know about it. However, even if she told him the truth, he wouldn't believe her, right? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She glanced at the entrance to the 7th floor. That thing, Could it be related to the faintly discernible attractive force that she had been feeling since she entered the tower? Luo Qingtong thought to herself as she raised her hand to block Master Chen's attack. The latter's inscription strength had plummeted, and even though he had the comprehension of a heaven-level spirit seal master, he couldn't use it. It wasn't that difficult for Luo Qingtong to deal with it. When Luo Qingtong raised her hand to block the inscription pattern, Master Chen's heart became even more furious. Even a small youth was able to block his inscription pattern. How could he, a heaven-level spirit seal master, put his face there? Furthermore, the other party was obviously here for that thing. Luo Qingtong's previous silence was taken as tacit agreement by him. Chapter 23:30. Boom! The power of the inscription patterns around him instantly withdrew and released. In an instant, a huge inscription pattern that emitted a fierce aura appeared in front of him. Along with the appearance of this huge and fierce inscription pattern, the surrounding air was also distorted. Streaks of silver sword light appeared in the air and vaguely circled around the huge inscription pattern. Million sword illustration. Battle inscription pattern. The so-called battle inscription pattern was the same as the martial arts of martial artists. It was an inscription pattern that inscription masters could use to attack directly. To inscribe this kind of inscription pattern, the inscription master had to be a spirit seal master as well as an expert above the human martial realm. However, there were very few inscription masters in this world. Those who could cultivate both inscription patterns and martial arts at the same time were even fewer. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. But now, this Master Chun had directly inscribed a battle inscription pattern. In an instant, the aura of the inscription pattern in his hand surged. Compared to ordinary inscription patterns, the battle inscription pattern had an increase in attack power and aura. When a spirit seal master who cultivated both martial arts and inscription patterns used the battle inscription pattern, he could completely fight against a spirit seal master of a higher level. This kind of spirit seal master was called a battle spirit master among the inscription masters. Even if he was one level lower than other spirit seal masters, the power of the inscription pattern he could use through the battle inscription pattern was enough to fight against the opponent. He could directly crush martial artists and spirit seal masters of the same level. When this Master Chun used the battle inscription pattern in his hand, Luo Qingtong immediately felt threatened. This is the battle inscription pattern. Luo Qingtong carefully sensed the power and aura of this battle inscription mark. She found that it allowed Master Chun, who was only able to use the power of a mortal-level spirit print master, to increase his power by another level. Battle Spirit Master. Seeing this scene, Little Pig, who was sitting obediently on Luo Qingtong's shoulder, stood up immediately. This Master Chun is actually a battle spirit master. Damn! This kind of spirit seal master and a heaven-level spirit seal master can completely crush most of the spirit seal masters in this world. His identity is definitely not simple. Oh my god, what on earth is on the 7th floor that attracted him here? Little Pig said as he looked at the entrance of the 7th floor not far away. To be able to make a heaven-level spirit seal master and an expert above the human martial stage come here, the item on the 7th floor must be incredible. At the same time, he hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong, "Master, don't fight with him again. Battle inscription pattern is the most powerful inscription pattern. The other inscription patterns, even if their aura is stronger than this one, will be disintegrated when they meet it. I didn't expect Master Chen to have such a trump card. Let's get out of here." The other party's battle inscription pattern had its own buff, and it had an advantage against other inscription patterns of battle, unless she could also use the battle inscription pattern. However, Luo Qingtong was not a human martial realm expert, so it was impossible for her to inscribe the battle inscription pattern. Chapter 23:31. She didn't expect Master Chun to be a battle spiritualist. As expected, none of these old foxes were easy to deal with. She had lured Master Chun into thinking that the entrance to the 7th floor could be shaken. He actually hid his strength in the last attack. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked in the direction of Master Chun and said to Little Pig calmly, "It's too late. You won't let me go." Her strength and ability had been exposed in front of him, and she had even fought with him. If she was Master Chun, she would definitely choose to eliminate this source of trouble. Now that she was in the inscription tower, she could still resist him by relying on the power of the inscription tower. But if she left the inscription tower, she wouldn't be a match for him with his strength and identity. Therefore, she couldn't leave. Not only could she not leave, but she also had to help the people of Tianfeng Inscription City seize the inscription tower. As long as the inscription tower was in Tianfeng Inscription City, she would have the confidence to deal with him. While Luo Qingtong and Little Pig were talking, the battle inscription pattern in Master Chen's hand was completely formed. The power of the inscription tower on the 6th floor was rapidly stirring. The silver sword light around the battle inscription pattern had already revealed itself, revealing an incomparably sharp cold light, turning void into reality. Using the power of inscription patterns to transform into sword-light combat power. Inscriptionists had battle inscription patterns as support, and thousands of offensive techniques could be used casually. It could increase one's offensive power and combat power to an unimaginable degree. If inscriptionists were considered as support skills, then battle spiritualists were like soul masters and beast tamers, a unique combat profession. Boom! As the silver sword light completely appeared, it instantly swept towards Luo Qingtong like a dragon. They were enhanced by the inscription pattern. No matter if it was speed, attack, or accuracy, they were all incomparable to ordinary martial artists' combat skills. This attack was like countless mortal martial realm experts attacking Luo Qingtong. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Bang, bang, bang. She raised her hand and waved out inscription patterns. At that instant, her blood eye technique was fully unleashed. The trajectories of these silver sword lights were captured by her. Countless amounts of pressure from the inscription tower were transformed into streams of energy under her control, and they were injected into the inscription patterns she was inscribing. At this moment, the ability to comprehend inscriptions that Luo Qingtong revealed was shocking. If it weren't for the limitation of strength and power, she would have been promoted to a human-level spiritual print master long ago. But at this moment, in the inscription tower, her ability to comprehend inscriptions was displayed to the extreme. She wasn't a mortal rank spirit print master, but she was better than one. Even so, she was still no match for Master Chun. Just like what Little Pig said, this combat inscription pattern had an overwhelming advantage over ordinary inscription patterns. The moment Luo Qingtong's inscription patterns came into contact with the sword lights, they were all shattered into pieces. And those silver sword lights, under the support of the combat inscription patterns, were continuously formed. There was no limit to them. As long as the combat inscription patterns were not broken, these silver sword lights would be formed according to Master Chen's will and power. This was the terrifying part of the combat inscription patterns. It had no limit at all. As long as a battle spiritualist had enough power, it could continue to attack. And in this inscription tower, how could Master Chen's power be exhausted? Chapter 23:32. Master. Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. This Master Chun was actually a battle spirit master. In this inscription tower, battle spirit masters were like bugs. Such a person would not need the help of the inscription tower and would not appear in the inscription tower again. Or perhaps, even if he did appear, he wouldn't appear in the inscription tower in Inscription City that was 1-star region below, because this place was no longer suitable for them to cultivate. However, Master Chin appeared here and seemed to be after something on the 7th floor of the inscription tower. What was there in the inscription tower in a 6-star region that was worth fighting over. Little Pig became anxious as he thought about it. Luo Qingtong watched the sword light shatter all the inscription patterns around her, but she wasn't in a hurry. Swish! Swish! She condensed inscription patterns around her and rushed toward the sword lights of the battle inscriptions again. That's right, Luo Qingtong's eye technique allowed her to instantly see through the weak points contained within the pressure of the inscription pagoda and quickly break through them. Although the battle inscriptions she had created weren't as powerful as Master Chen's, they were much more powerful. However, with her eye sorcery, the speed at which she dissolved and controlled the power of the inscription pagoda wasn't any slower than Master Chen's. In fact, it was even faster than that. Therefore, with the endless supply of energy from the inscription tower, Luo Qingtong could completely win with quantity and negate the attacks from the battle inscription marks. Those battle inscription sword lights could break through the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong's body. But soon, another layer of inscription patterns would form around Luo Qingtong's body, preventing those sword lights from advancing any further. Boom, boom, boom. The sword lights of battle inscriptions clashed fiercely with the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong. Every time, a large part of the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong would break. Then, a large area of inscription patterns would quickly fill in. Luo Qingtong's eye technique copy allowed her to not be like other inscription masters. She didn't need to use her inscription talent to redraw the inscription pattern. Instead, she could copy it directly. This would save her a lot of time and allow her to form countless inscription patterns around her body, just like Master Chen. These inscription patterns completely blocked the attacks of the battle inscriptions. However, this alone was not enough. This was because Luo Qingtong's eye technique was limited, but Master Chen's inscriptions were limitless. If this continued, the unlucky one would be Luo Qingtong. He had to find a way to deal with Master Chen. However, what could possibly hurt Master Chen on the 6th floor? Luo Qingtong had already experienced the power of the light at the entrance of the 7th level and had severely injured Master Chen. It was impossible for him to make the same mistake again. Even if she tried to seduce him, it would be useless. However, if he didn't use the light at the entrance of the 7th level, what else could hurt him? He couldn't possibly let Luo Qingtong rush into the light at the entrance of the 7th level by herself. However, Luo Qingtong had already checked the light at the entrance of the 7th level. She couldn't see through it at all. If she was unable to enter the 7th floor, then she would be severely injured by the opponent's rays of light. At that time, she would either be taken advantage of by Master Chen or be blasted out of the inscription tower. When the people of Lungyu Inscription City obtained the inscription tower, she still wouldn't be able to escape Master Chen's pursuit. Chapter 23:33. While Luo Qingtong was pondering in her mind, on the 5th floor, Lungyu City Lord, who was fighting with Song Cheng, heard the commotion on the 6th floor and instantly laughed out loud. "Huh, Song Cheng, you're finished. I don't care where you found this expert from, but it's obvious that she's not a match for Master Chen. You people from Tianfeng Inscription City, just wait for your misfortune." Lungyu City Lord's face was extremely ferocious. When Luo Qingtong left, he thought that there was an opportunity. After all, no matter how Song Cheng was able to obtain his current inscription talent, he shouldn't be a match for him who had been immersed in this path for so many years. However, he didn't expect that what Song Cheng obtained was the sharing of Luo Qingtong's inscription talent. He knew everything that Luo Qingtong knew. Although he wasn't as experienced as Lungyu City Lord, he couldn't stop Luo Qingtong's inscription talent. Previously, he had cultivated many inscription patterns in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. In addition, Song Cheng's own theoretical knowledge was solid. In this battle, Lungyu City Lord was instantly at a disadvantage. Only now did he know how Song Cheng could make such big words in front of Luo Qingtong and let the youth go first. He would deal with him alone. And how could Luo Qingtong directly rush into the 6th floor without any scruples? It turned out that Song Cheng's inscription talent was enough to deal with him. He was angry and angry in his heart. Only when he heard the commotion on the 6th floor did he regain some confidence. This commotion must be caused by that Master Chun. After all, how old was that youth named Xie? How could he be a match for Master Chun? Moreover, Master Chin's origin was mysterious. Lungyu City lore had suspected several times that his strength might be above an ordinary spirit print master. Now he was completely sure of this point. Lungyu City Lord's face was proud and ferocious. However, Song Cheng's heart suddenly trembled. He shared his inscription talent with Luo Qingtong and could faintly sense her situation. At this time, Luo Qingtong was indeed focusing on defense and did not take the initiative to attack. Could it be that what City Lord Lungyu said was true? She was no match for that Master Chen. Thinking of this, Song Cheng's heart instantly became anxious. Seeing the City Lord Lungyu's confidence in Master Chun, he guessed that the other party's strength was not as simple as just becoming a spirit print master. He was probably even stronger than the average spirit print master. If something happened to Luo Qingtong, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. As he thought about it, he used all his strength to attack Lungyu City Lord. At the same time, he used another inscription pattern to attack the high-level inscription masters of Lungyu City, whose inscription ability was sealed by Luo Qingtong. Bang, bang, bang. A group of high-level inscription masters of Lungyu City lay on the ground, unable to fight back at all. When they were attacked by Song Cheng's inscription pattern, they all spat out blood and rushed in the direction of Lungyu City Lord. So many experts all rushed towards Lungyu Inscription City Lord, instantly blocking his path in all directions. Originally, Cold Jade City Lord wanted to avoid Kai Song City's attack. However, his front, back, left, and right were all blocked, making it impossible for him to dodge. Chapter 2334. Originally, the power of Song Cheng's inscription pattern attack was not inferior to his. With this block, he instantly vomited blood and retreated backwards. The bodies of the high-level inscriptionists of Cold Jade Inscription City all smashed into his body, causing him to once again rush backwards, and in an instant, he flew out tens of meters away. At this moment, Song Cheng's inscription pattern attack arrived again. "Get out of here! Who are you to mock and despise my disciple?" Song Cheng's inscription pattern once again smashed onto his body, instantly causing him to be heavily injured. His body was sent out of the inscription tower. Trash! Imitating Luo Qingtong's previous gesture, Song Cheng pointed his thumb downwards and gave Lungyu City Lord and the others a look of disdain as they disappeared from the inscription tower. "You can't even defeat me, an inscription trash, and you still have the nerve to say that you are my disciple." Song Cheng's eyes were cold. After kicking Lungyu City Lord and the others out of the inscription tower, he rushed towards the 6th floor. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried that something would happen to Luo Qingtong, he wouldn't have let Lungyu City Lord and the others off so easily. He would have tortured them properly before kicking them out of the inscription tower. However, at this moment, he was worried about Luo Qingtong and couldn't care so much. "Disciple, wait for me. I'm coming." Song Cheng mustered all his strength and rushed towards the 6th floor. However, although his inscription talent was inherited from Luo Qingtong, there were still some differences between him and the young girl. For example, although Luo Qingtong's inscription talent was strong, she also had the enhancement of her eye technique. That was why she could easily enter the 6th floor. After all, the 6th floor was the category of spirit print masters. As for Luo Qingtong, although her inscription comprehension had barely reached this level, if it wasn't for the enhancement of her eye technique, she wouldn't be able to walk so casually in the 6th floor's oppressive aura. Therefore, as soon as Song Cheng rushed to the entrance of the 6th floor, he felt an incomparably tyrannical aura rush out from the entrance of the 6th floor. In an instant, his figure that had just stepped into the entrance of the 6th floor was forced back by this extremely tyrannical pressure by nearly 10 meters. He was almost ejected out of the entrance. "No, disciple. My disciple is still inside." Song Cheng's heart was burning with anxiety. After he had rushed into the 6th level, he had sensed two forces fighting fiercely in the depths of the 6th level. The most tyrannical one was clearly not Luo Qingtong's aura. She was indeed in danger. Master Chun was no ordinary spirit printmaster. Song Chung absolutely believed in Luo Qingtong's talent. However, no matter how talented Luo Qingtong was, she had only practiced inscription technique for a few years, and most of the time, she was self-taught. If Master Chen's inscription skills were beyond the level of a spirit printmaster, Luo Qingtong would be in danger. As Song Chung thought about it, the veins on his forehead suddenly popped out. In the next second, he took a huge step forward. He forcibly withstood the oppressive aura of the 6th floor and moved forward step by step. Every step he took forward left a bloody mark under his feet. That was the result of the oppressive aura of the 6th floor being too strong, and he forcibly withstood it. At this moment, he was unable to transform the oppressive aura like Luo Qingtong. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 2335. Using the power of her eye technique, Luo Qingtong copied countless inscription patterns. At the same time, she moved around, not allowing the battle inscription sword light, controlled by Master Chun, to have a chance to get close to her body. Once she was hit by those battle inscription sword lights, all of her defenses and resistance would immediately collapse. At that time, she could only be blasted out of the inscription tower by those battle inscription sword lights. However, she didn't expect that those battle inscription sword lights could actually accumulate and increase their strength. Master Chun was shocked when he saw that the inscription patterns around her seemed to be endless and were constantly being condensed. His opponent's inscription talent had already exceeded his imagination. Any mortal-level spirit seal master wouldn't be able to do it to Luo Qingtong's level. The speed at which she condensed inscription patterns was already comparable to a heaven-level spirit seal master. The speed at which she converted the power of the inscription tower was also incomparably fast. How did she do it? She was simply a monster, a monster. Master Chun was shocked and aghast. Then, he quickly changed his strategy. Every time he attacked, he would deliberately leave a part of the sword light power. Now, this part of the sword light power had become extremely thick and tyrannical in the process of superimposing again and again. At this moment, the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong's body were once again shattered by the battle inscription sword light that he blasted out. This part of the tyrannical and thick sword light power blasted towards Luo Qingtong. He didn't believe that the inscription patterns around her body could block it again. Xie, get out of here. After blasting the youth out of the inscription tower and obtaining the ownership of this inscription tower, he immediately eliminated the root of the problem. He had to completely kill the other party in this Tianfeng inscription city, so as to avoid leaving behind a disaster. Looking at the thick sword light that Master Chen blasted out, Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold. The light in her left hand flickered slightly. It was not the time yet. If she were to forcefully attack now, she was afraid. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind her. Left in front, it's right in front of you. Disciple. The battle inscription mark of the human martial realm is in the pillar you saw. Songcheng appeared not far behind Luo Qingtong. His entire body was covered in blood. When he saw that Luo Qingtong was in danger, he immediately shouted. As he spoke, Luo Qingtong's gaze followed his words and landed on a pillar to her left. Strangely enough, this pillar had been standing there for a long time. However, during the battle between Luo Qingtong and Master Chun, they inadvertently neglected it again and again. At this moment, under Song Cheng's guidance, Luo Qingtong discovered the uniqueness of this pillar. Compared to the other pillars, this pillar was clearly branded with lines of inscription patterns. The entire pillar seemed to be surrounded by inscription lines. Under the cover of these inscription patterns, there was clearly an inscription pattern that had already been engraved on the pillar. The battle inscription of the peak human martial realm. The reward that Song Chung had told her before. The one that was placed in the inscription tower by the experts of the Central Inscription Association. So it was here. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up slightly, and she directly rushed towards the inscription pillar. Seeing her actions, Master Chen sneered. Ridiculous. That battle inscription mark of the human martial realm is something that you can easily use. Chapter 23:36. As Master Chen spoke, his heart was filled with disdain. His opponent's talent was indeed extraordinary. However, he probably didn't know how difficult it was to learn the battle inscription patterns. Not every inscription master who had advanced to the human martial arts realm could immediately learn the battle inscription patterns. The rarity and preciousness of a battle spirit master was beyond everyone's imagination. This Xie Qi thought too simply of the matter. And that's Song Chung. Master Chen glanced at Song Chung, who had appeared on the 6th floor. Although his body was covered in blood, the fact that he could appear on the 6th floor meant that his talent was amazing. However, wasn't he the useless inscription master from Tianfeng Inscription City? How could he break through all the way to the 6th floor? This was simply unimaginable. After this matter was over and the inscription tower was in his hands, he would definitely capture him and interrogate him to see how he did it. Once this method was in his hands, it wouldn't be inferior to the things on the 7th floor. As he thought about it, Master Chen's eyes were filled with greed. After Luo Qingtong's body was covered in layers of inscription patterns, she rushed towards the inscription pattern pillar. Boom! Her hand directly pressed on the inscription pattern pillar. Before Master Chen could react, the battle inscription patterns on the inscription pattern pillar instantly flew up. Master Chen was wrong. Luo Qingtong didn't need to slowly master and learn the battle inscription patterns. She only needed to adjust the aura and power of her own inscription patterns and turn it into the aura and power of the battle inscription patterns left behind in the inscription pattern pillar. Then, she would be able to drive the battle inscription patterns on the pillar. This was an impossible feat for others. However, Luo Qingtong had the eye technique analysis and the innate mixed yuan body. She could imitate anyone's aura and power in her own body. Boom! As Luo Qingtong's attack blasted out. In an instant, the battle inscription sword light that Master Chen blasted out was blocked by Luo Qingtong's battle inscription pattern. Battle inscription pattern versus battle inscription pattern. Roar! As Luo Qingtong blasted the energy into the inscription pattern pillar, the battle inscription pattern appeared in midair and started to spin rapidly. Then, one after another, the phantoms of demonic beasts appeared in midair. The battle inscription pattern on the 6th level had transformed into a beast. Roar! As if it had its own summoning array. The demonic beast that jumped out of the battle inscription pattern turned from illusory to corporeal. Then, all of them raised their heads and roared loudly as they charged towards the sword lights. Boom, boom, boom. The sword light clashed with the demonic beast. The human martial arts realm collided with the peak of the human martial arts realm. In an instant, Master Chen was blasted away by the collision of the two battle inscriptions and spat out a mouthful of blood. Originally, he would not have lost so miserably, but who asked him to be lured by Luo Qingtong to attack the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, which resulted in him being seriously injured. His strength had dropped to the human level. Now, the battle inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong used at the peak of the human martial arts realm was left behind by the powerhouse of the Central Inscription Association. Even if it had the same power as his battle inscription pattern, with Master Chen's current injuries, he would not be able to defeat this battle inscription pattern. Immediately, he vomited blood and flew out. Seeing that his body was about to be sent out of the inscription tower, Master Chen was extremely unwilling. Chapter 23:37. Boom! As Master Chen waved his hand. In an instant, an inscription pattern shot out from his hand. This inscription pattern was not aimed at Luo Qingtong. It was aimed at Song Chung, who was standing not far away, bathed in blood. Boom! Before Master Chen's figure disappeared, the inscription pattern blasted towards Song Chung. This was because Master Chen's gaze had been fixed on Luo Qingtong. The latter did not expect that his target would be Song Chung. Master! She watched as the inscription pattern blasted heavily on Song Cheng's body and brought him towards the light at the entrance of the 7th level. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. Song Chung was already having a hard time resisting the aura of the 6th level of the inscription tower. If he collided with the light at the entrance of the 7th level, he would definitely die under the terrifying recoil. Even if the inscription tower moved him out halfway, it would be too late. This was because the light at the entrance of the 7th level was too terrifying. Damn it! Luo Qingtong looked coldly at the disappearing figure of Master Chen. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. The other party was clearly using Song Chung to deal with her. She would remember him. Once she got out of the inscription tower, she would not let him off. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately flew up and charged towards Song Chung. Bang! She blocked Song Cheng's figure, and the two of them collided with the entrance of the 7th level. Boom! The light above was triggered. In an instant, the aura of the inscription tower rushed towards Luo Qingtong and Song Chung. Disciple. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was rushing over to save him, Song Cheng's heart suddenly shrank. He was from the Tianfeng Inscription City and naturally knew how terrifying the 7th level of the inscription tower was. According to the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord, when the Inscription Association handed the inscription tower to the seniors of Tianfeng Inscription City, they had sternly warned them not to touch the 7th level of the inscription tower. They would die if they touched it. This was because only spirit print masters and above could enter the 6th floor. Therefore, other than the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord who was barely able to enter, the other inscription masters of Heavenly Wind Inscription City had never entered. Naturally, no one had touched the 7th floor. However, this did not mean that Song Chung would take any chances. Even the people from the Inscription Association had especially warned him about this matter. From this, one could see how terrifying the 7th level of the inscription tower was. Why did his disciple have to go up there? If he died, so be it. Why would she care about him? Song Chung was anxious and angry. He raised his hand to push Luo Qingtong away. However, at this moment, all the strength in his body suddenly dissipated. The inscription talent that he shared with Luo Qingtong had failed. Master, Luo Qingtong was currently resisting the light at the entrance to the 7th floor. Her pupils were as red as blood, and they were spinning rapidly. She had also summoned the battle inscription pattern on the inscription pillar. Under the guidance of her pupil technique, she fought against the light of the entrance to the 7th floor. She was barely able to block the light of the entrance to the 7th floor, but she was unable to leave. At this moment, she saw Song Cheng's aura suddenly dissipate. Then there was a boom. Chapter 23:38. Master. When Luo Qingtong saw this scene, her eyes turned extremely cold. She raised her hand and grabbed at Song Chung. However, after Song Chung lost his inscription talent, he couldn't resist the aura of the 6th level of the inscription tower. In an instant, he was smashed toward the entrance of the 7th level of the inscription tower. Luo Qingtong was fighting against the light of the entrance of the 7th level. In that instant, Song Chung smashed toward the 7th level. Seeing that his body was about to touch the light of the entrance of the 7th level, Luo Qingtong gritted her teeth and rushed up. However, she was still a step too late. Bang! Song Cheng's body smashed into the light of the entrance of the 7th level. However, to Luo Qingtong's surprise, when Song Cheng's body crashed into the light of the entrance of the 7th level, he wasn't sent flying out of the 6th level like Master Chen. Instead, he disappeared from the entrance of the 7th level. This, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. She hastily activated her eye technique. Soon, Song Cheng's faint figure appeared in her blood-red eyes as he disappeared into the 7th floor. Song Cheng had entered the 7th level. He was fine. Luo Qingtong was both surprised and happy. Her tense and cold heart suddenly relaxed, and even the cold expression on her face softened a little. However, before she could heave a sigh of relief, Little Pig, who was squatting on her shoulder, started to squeal. "Be careful." As his voice rang out, the light of the 7th level instantly smashed heavily onto Luo Qingtong's body. She had rushed forward to save Song Cheng, but didn't manage to catch him in time. However, the light of the 7th level was even more affected by her. Seeing that Luo Qingtong wasn't injured at all under its attack, and even went deeper into the light of the entrance, the light of the 7th level seemed to be enraged. Boom! An even more violent and terrifying power than before instantly attacked Luo Qingtong with an invincible aura. The power of this light was even stronger than the one that attacked Master Chun. It was obvious how enraged it was. Boom, boom, boom. That light instantly bombarded Luo Qingtong like 1,000 raindrops. The entire area connecting the 6th and 7th levels was attacked by the light of the entrance of the 7th level, almost covering the entire area. The battle inscription pattern in front of Luo Qingtong was instantly smashed into pieces by this power. The figures of the human martial realm demonic beasts that were summoned by the battle inscription patterns also disappeared in the air at this moment with a wail. The battle inscription pattern of the peak human martial realm was destroyed. The terrifying power of the light of the entrance of the 7th level didn't weaken in the slightest as it violently blasted toward Luo Qingtong. "Master!" Little Pig cried out in alarm. After Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong. Disciple. Song Cheng didn't care that he had already entered the 7th level of the inscription tower that every inscription master dreamed of. Instead, when he saw that Luo Qingtong was in danger, he rushed back without a care in the world. Chapter 23:39. If it wasn't for his disciple being so powerful, he wouldn't even be able to enter the 6th floor, not to mention the 7th floor. There's something wrong with this inscription tower. Damn it. My disciple is so talented and has such a powerful inscription talent. Shouldn't you be welcoming her with open doors? Don't you have any eyesight? You're actually trying to kill me. What the hell are you trying to do by letting me in? Wait a minute. Song Cheng cursed in his heart and was stunned. He stopped in his tracks and shouted at Luo Qingtong, "Disciple, quick, put away all your inscription talent and act like a piece of trash. That's the innate talent of pretending to be me. Trash." He jumped up and down and said to Luo Qingtong, "That's right. From Song Cheng's point of view, the entrance to the 7th floor of the inscription tower was so mysterious. It was said that when the president of the Inscription Association wanted to enter, he was forced back by the light of the entrance and was almost seriously injured. It was obvious that the entrance to the 7th floor wasn't something that could be entered just because of one's inscription talent. Then why was he able to enter? Of course it was because he was a piece of trash. So, only pieces of trash could enter the 7th floor of the inscription tower? Of course not. A real piece of trash couldn't even enter the 2nd floor. How could he enter the 7th floor? So, after thinking about it, Song Cheng could only come up with one answer. That was one's inscription talent had to be so powerful that it was inhuman. One had to be able to completely restrain the aura of their inscription talent. It was as if they had returned to their original state, and the 7th floor of the inscription tower couldn't detect the slightest fluctuation of their inscription talent. Only then would they be able to enter the 7th floor. Therefore, all the people who wanted to enter the 7th floor had used the wrong method, including the president of the Inscription Association. However, Song Cheng didn't have time to tell Luo Qingtong about his conjecture. He could only turn her into a piece of trash like him. With his disciple's intelligence and ability, she should be able to understand the meaning of his words and do it, right? As Song Chung thought of this, his heart leaped into his throat. Luo Qingtong reacted immediately after hearing his words. Previously, she had felt that after Song Chung had entered the 7th level, he had given her a vague feeling. However, under the attack of the light at the entrance to the 7th level, she had found it difficult to pinpoint what it was. Now that she heard Song Cheng's words, she instantly understood what was going on. So that was how it was. The aura of the inscription patterns around her suddenly retracted. In an instant, the inscription aura in her body disappeared without a trace. Even the aura of the 6th level of the inscription tower that she had controlled earlier instantly broke free from her control and returned to its ownerless, oppressive aura. Luo Qingtong used the advantage of her innate mixed yuan body and the power of her eye technique to directly copy the inscription aura and inscription innate ability in her body into Song Cheng's. Boom! Just as that vast and terrifying tide-like power was about to blast towards Luo Qingtong, it suddenly lost its target and dissipated in midair. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong directly broke through the light at the entrance of the 7th floor and crashed into the 7th floor. Bang! Her body rolled on the ground and then stood up. Disciple. Chapter 2340. Cough, cough. I'm fine. When Luo Qingtong broke through the light at the entrance of the 7th level, she was still attacked by the pressure of the 6th level. However, her movements were fast. Before the pressure of the 6th level hit her, she had already broken through to the 7th level, so she didn't suffer much damage. Otherwise, she wouldn't be much better off than Song Chung, who was covered in blood. She coughed lightly and waved her hand at Song Chung, indicating that she was fine. Then, she raised her head and looked at the scene on the 7th level. It was said that no one had entered this place before. I didn't expect the way to enter the 7th level to be like this. Song Chung said beside her, feeling a lingering fear in his heart. That Master Chun was too shameless. He couldn't defeat his disciple, so he used himself to deal with her. If it wasn't for the strange way to enter the 7th level and the fact that he had lost the inscription talent that his disciple had given him, he would have been blasted into smithereens by the light at the entrance of the 7th level. His disciple wouldn't have been able to escape and would have been seriously injured. If it was serious, she might even lose her inscription talent. She wouldn't be able to use the power of inscriptions in the future. After all, the light at the entrance of the 7th level was too terrifying. In order to save him, Luo Qingtong had entered it again and again. Luo Qingtong nodded. She didn't expect the light at the entrance of the 7th level to be like this. Speaking of which, she still had to thank Master Chun. If he hadn't been so shameless at the end, she might not have been able to enter the 7th level. After all, even Luo Qingtong couldn't see through the light at the entrance of the 7th level. This could be considered a lucky hit. When Master Chin pushed Song Ching out, he probably didn't expect such an outcome. When she got out of the 7th level, she would definitely thank Master Chin properly. Outside the inscription tower, a group of people from Tianfeng Inscription City looked in the direction of the inscription tower anxiously. Now, their only hope was to regain the ownership of the inscription tower. However, the people from Lungyu Inscription City were so powerful. Could Song Chung and the others succeed? Hey, Master, you shouldn't have let junior apprentice Brother Chung and the others take risks. An inscription master of Heavenly Wind Inscription City beside the city Lord couldn't help but ask. His words weren't directed at Song Chung. Instead, he felt that even if the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City couldn't win against the people of Lungyu Inscription City, there was no need to use the strength of Heavenly Wind Inscription City's City Lord and the Inscription Masters of Heavenly Wind Inscription City as a joke. This was especially true for the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord. He had taught countless people in his life, and he was of great significance to the Inscription Masters of Heavenly Wind Inscription City. The inscriptionists of the Heavenly Wind Inscription City were powerful, and half of the credit belonged to the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord. Originally, the latter couldn't use his inscription strength because his inscription mark had been destroyed. Now that he was forbidden from touching inscriptions, he wouldn't even be able to teach others how to use inscriptions. How cruel was this to him? The people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City couldn't bear it. On the other hand, the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord's expression was calm. Chang'er has the heart. I won't refuse him. Chapter 2341. In this life, regardless of whether Chang'er wins or not, I will never touch inscriptions again. On the other hand, because of my decision and Lungyu City's shamelessness, you guys might not be able to use inscriptions in the future. Your identity as an inscription master will also be invalidated. I'll let you guys down. As the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord spoke, he let out a long sigh. When he said this, the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City all had tears in their eyes. Master, please don't say that. Among us, there are countless people who have obtained the great Tao of inscription because of you. Now, it started in Heavenly Wind Inscription City, and it will end in Heavenly Wind Inscription City. We have no regrets. That's right. Master, we will advance and retreat together with you in Heavenly Wind Inscription City. The people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City spoke with unswerving determination in their eyes. When the other ordinary people who lived in Heavenly Wind Inscription City heard their words, their eyes also turned red. Sigh, looks like this time, Heavenly Wind Inscription City really has no other choice. That's right, we are really going to leave our homes. I wonder if we can still live in other star-field cities in the future. When the ordinary people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City thought about it, they couldn't help but wipe away the tears in their eyes. As for the shopkeeper who received Luo Qingtong's kindness, he looked in the direction of the inscription tower, his eyes shining brightly. That young man called Xie. Could he be the reason why Heavenly Wind Inscription City won't fall like that young lady said? His heart was excited. The shopkeeper of the pharmacy believed Luo Qingtong's words without a doubt. Originally, after waiting for so long, he didn't see any changes, and his heart was filled with despair. However, Xieqi's appearance allowed him to see some hope. After all, this young man suddenly appeared and said that he was Song Cheng's disciple. More importantly, he even made a bet with the people of Lungyu City. In the eyes of others, that young man called Xieqi might be overestimating himself. However, in the eyes of the shopkeeper, he might very well be the reason why Heavenly Wind Inscription City won't fall like that young lady said. He was in high spirits as he waited for a change to appear in the inscription tower. When the people of Cold Jade Inscription City heard the words of the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City, they all started to laugh complacently. Ha! At least you people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City know your place. This inscription tower definitely belongs to our Lungyu Inscription City. Even your inscription techniques have been accepted by our Lungyu Inscription City. Of course, as they spoke, they looked at the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord and the others with malicious intentions and said, "If you kneel down and beg our city lord, agree to work for our Lungyu Inscription City. Perhaps our city lord will consider letting you go. Of course, in that way, all of you will have to be slaves and servants in our Cold Jade Inscription City, and you'll have to be loyal and serve the people of our Cold Jade Inscription City for your entire lives. Brothers, don't you agree?" The group of people from Lungyu Inscription City laughed loudly as they spoke. The people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City all clenched their fists as they looked at them angrily. Especially the group of people who regarded the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord as their master and father. They wished that they could rush over and kill them. Bah! Chapter 2342. That's right, even if we live and die with Heavenly Wind Inscription City, we won't be the dogs at the feet of your Lungyu Inscription City. The group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City were filled with anger. The people from Lungyu Inscription City snorted coldly. Just as they were about to speak, They saw rays of light explode from within the inscription tower. Then, one by one, figures were ejected from within. Haha, they must be from your heavenly wind inscription city. Let's see how sharp your mouths are. Just wait for despair. The group of people from Lung Yu inscription city sneered. They were pleased with themselves. When Lung Yu inscription city's lord and the others entered, they had already discussed that they would definitely make the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City feel incomparable despair. They would suppress the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City to the 3rd level, making it so that they wouldn't even have the chance to climb up. Thus, the group of people from Lung Yu Inscription City had already determined in their hearts. The figures that were ejected from the inscription tower were definitely from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. It seemed that the people of Lung Yu Inscription City had gotten tired of playing and kicked them out of the inscription tower. Sure enough, under their gazes, a group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City appeared in everyone's line of sight. Ha! People from Heavenly Wind Inscription City, do you see that? Your inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City are all what? The person from Lung Yu Inscription City who was laughing loudly hadn't even finished speaking when his eyes suddenly widened. In an instant, his eyes bulged out like a goldfish's eyes. How is this possible? He looked at the scene in front of him in shock. The words in his mouth were suddenly swallowed back into his throat, almost choking him to death. However, he didn't notice this at all. He only held his throat as he looked in front of him in shock and disbelief. It turned out that the inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City, who appeared one after another, were all carrying the figure of an inscription master from Lung Yu Inscription City. Those inscription masters from Lung Yu Inscription City were all like dead dogs. They were all held in the hands of the inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. Every one of them was half dead. Their heads drooped, and they looked like they had no ability to resist at all. From the scars all over their bodies and the ability to torture them, it was easy to tell what they had experienced in the inscription tower. What? Seeing this scene, everyone in Heavenly Wind Inscription City was in an uproar. They all straightened their bodies and looked forward. Even Tian Feng Inscription City Lord and the others were the same. They were shocked and speechless as they looked at the group of inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City that had appeared in their line of sight. There was an indescribable feeling of surprise and shock in their hearts. What's going on? Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord's voice trembled as he looked at the group of inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. His gaze swept across the group of inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City in shock. He had never thought that they would appear in front of him in such a shocking manner. As for the group of inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City, they had already descended when everyone in the inscription plaza looked over. They threw the people from Lung Yu Inscription City in their hands forward and said coldly, "The people from Lung Yu Inscription City are shameless. They heavily injured us and trapped us on the 3rd floor, tried to stop us from ascending the tower. Unfortunately, they are too smart for their own good." Chapter 2343. When the voices of the inscription masters from Heavenly Wind Inscription City sounded out, the people in the inscription plaza realized that they were all injured. What was going on? The people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City were also heavily injured? Furthermore, from the meaning of their words, it was obvious that they had been set up by the people from Lung Yu Inscription City, which was why they were injured to such an extent. But why was it that in the end, the people from Lung Yu Inscription City were taken care of by them? The people in Inscription Plaza were puzzled. They looked at the group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City who descended from the sky and suddenly realized that Song Chung and his disciple were missing from them. Also, the city lord and the others were not among the people from Lung Yu Inscription City. What was going on? When everyone saw this scene, they were instantly confused. At this moment, there was a sound from the Heavenly Wind Inscription Tower. Bang, bang, bang. In the sky, rays of light flashed. Then, figures appeared one after another. Huh, it must be the other people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City who came out. Seeing this scene, the people from Lungyu Inscription City who were guarding outside were excited again. So what if the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City beat up their Lungyu Inscription City's low-level inscription masters? Their city lord was not among them. There was also a group of high-level inscription masters from Lungyu Inscription City. With these people here, the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City could forget about getting any benefits. However, the people from Lungyu Inscription City did not know that other than Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng, the rest of the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City were all here. Therefore, the figures that appeared in the sky were definitely not from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. They were feeling complacent in their hearts. In an instant, a figure fiercely smashed in front of them, causing them to be stunned. City Lord. Everyone looked at Lungyu Inscription City Lord, who was smashed out of the inscription tower with a dusty face, and were instantly dumbfounded. Following that, a series of banging sounds rang out. In an instant, another series of people smashed in front of them, smashing Lungyu Inscription City Lord, who had yet to get up into the ground. Bastard! All of you scram! Lungyu Inscription City Lord was so angry that he sent all the people who were smashing into him flying. It was only after he sent those people flying that the crowd was shocked to discover that Li Yunmu's group had been sent flying. The people who smashed into Lungyu City Lord were all high-level inscription masters of Lungyu City. What was going on? City Lord Lungyu and the others were all blasted out of the inscription tower. Were they moved out by the inscription tower due to lack of physical strength, or were they beaten out by someone? Everyone guessed in shock. After that, when they saw the wounds and sorry state of Lungyu and the others, they immediately had an answer in their hearts. Oh my God! City Lord Lungyu and the others were actually blasted out by someone who is so powerful in Heavenly Wind Inscription City. You can actually blast them all out. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. Previously, they thought that the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City would definitely lose. However, no one would have thought that under such an advantage, Lungyu Inscription City Lord and the others would actually be blasted out. How is this possible? Who did it? Was there such an inscription master in Heavenly Wind Inscription City? Everyone thought in disbelief. To think that they had hidden all of this so deeply. They clearly had such a trump card, yet they were still hiding it and pretending to be helpless and in despair. If Master Chen hadn't hidden his true strength, he would have fallen into their trap. When Lungyu City Lord's voice rang out, Sky Wind Inscription City Lord and the others felt a wave of confusion in their hearts. What did he mean? What did he mean when he said that Heavenly Wind Inscription City had invited a Spirit Seal Master to oversee the city? Song Cheng's innate talent wasn't trash at all, but first-rate. Was Lungyu City Lord's brain damaged? Who didn't know about Song Cheng's inscription talent? Moreover, if the people of Sky Wind Inscription City really had such a trump card, why would they be in such despair? Chapter 23:45. Then he heard the inscription masters who came out of the inscription tower say, Master, Senior and Junior Brothers, it's true. Junior Brother Song Cheng and his disciple are really not ordinary people. Junior Brother Song Cheng's inscription talent is not lower than ours. When we were trapped on the third floor, it was Junior Brother Song Cheng who saved us, and his disciple, Xie is also a spirit print master. A senior inscription master from Sky Wind Inscription City said excitedly. His face was flushed red. Because of the loss of blood, his face was pale. Because of this excitement, it was flushed red, making his face look extremely rosy. And the people around him, after hearing his words, also agreed in unison, confirming his words. Master, fellow brothers, this is indeed the case. If it wasn't for Junior Brother Song Cheng and his disciple, I'm afraid we would still be trapped on the third floor and tortured by the people of Lungyu Inscription City. His disciple, Xie, is really a spirit print master. The words of the crowd prove the truth of this matter. In the hearts of Sky Wind Inscription City Lord and the others, they were all surprised and happy. That Song Cheng's disciple was actually a spirit print master. But what was going on with Song Cheng's inscription talent? Everyone was both surprised and puzzled. For a moment, they did not notice the last words of Lung Yu Inscription City Lord. Just as Lung Yu Inscription City Lord sneered in his heart and was about to say something, another sound suddenly came from the inscription tower. Ha ha ha! People of Sky Wind Inscription City, just you wait and see. It must be Song Cheng and his disciple who were thrown out by Master Chun. When Lung Yu Inscription City Lord heard this sound, he was instantly overjoyed and immediately raised his head to look ahead. At this moment, Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others also recalled the ruthless words he had just said. They were immediately shocked and raised their heads to look at the inscription tower in front of them. Could it be that the truth was as Lung Yu Inscription City Lord said, that Master Chun had thrown Song Cheng and his disciple, Xie Qi, out? Everyone's hearts tightened as they stared unblinkingly at the figure that appeared in the air in front of them. Haha, you don't have to look anymore. It's definitely Song Cheng and his disciple. You people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. Lung Yu City Lord had just finished speaking when the figure in the air smashed down fiercely, smashing him into the ground. Plop! Lung Yu City Lord was ruthlessly smashed into the mud. Bastard! Get out of my way! You! Master Chun! Before City Lord Lung Yuan could get up from the ground while cursing, he instantly saw a face that was enlarged in front of him, pale and in a sorry state. This time, he immediately cried out in shock. The figure that fell from the sky was Master Chun. It was actually the Master Chun who he thought would definitely defeat Song Cheng and Song Cheng's disciple, Xie Qi, and blast him out of the inscription tower. Master Chun? How could it be you? Lung Yu's cry contained too much disbelief and shock. How could it be Master Chun? How could it be Master Chun? Chapter 2346. No matter how he looked at it, it should be Master Chun suppressing Song Cheng's disciple on the 6th level. Why was it Master Chun who was blasted out of the inscription tower in the end? And the latter's appearance was actually in such a sorry state. Lung Yu Inscription City Lord stared at Master Chen's disheveled hair and pale face. The bloodstain on the corner of his lips was incomparably dazzling. It was obvious that this Master Chun had been kicked out by someone. Moreover, he was seriously injured and was teleported out by the inscription tower. What was going on? And the strange cry of Lung Yu Inscription City Lord instantly caused Master Chun to fly into a rage out of humiliation. A heaven-level Spirit Seal Master and a Battle Spirit Master actually lost to a brat. Furthermore, he had to use the help of Song Cheng to successfully escape from the inscription tower. Otherwise, with the offensive ability of the Battle Inscription Mark, Luo Qingtong might be able to completely kill him in the spatial turbulence before he was teleported out of the inscription tower. At that time, the one who would be teleported out of the inscription tower might be his corpse. Such a thing was a great humiliation to him. However, the city lord of the Lung Yu Inscription City asked in such a loud voice in front of so many people. His face was filled with indescribable disbelief. Immediately, Master Chen raised his hand and slapped Lung Yu Inscription City Lord, causing him to roll a few times in the air before heavily smashing onto the ground not far away. Shut up, Ben. As he said this, he forcefully swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Then he said coldly, "If it's not me, who do you think it is? Bastard." His expression was cold, and his voice was furious. Lung Yu Inscription City Lord was slapped until he saw stars. His face was swollen like a pig's head, but he didn't dare to make a sound. He could feel the strength of the blow from Master Chen's hand. If he hadn't restrained himself, he would have been half dead, an expert at the peak of the human martial realm. This Master Chun was actually an expert at the peak of the human martial realm. What he sensed on the 5th level was not wrong. The other party had indeed used the battle inscription mark. But if that was the case, how could the other party lose? Battle Spirit Master. This was a Battle Soul Master. Song Chang's disciple couldn't possibly be a Battle Soul Master, right? Lungyu City Lord was stunned by Master Chen's slap. After slapping him hard, Master Chen snorted and looked in the direction of the inscription tower. Oomph, the two of them are really dead. Master Chen heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the inscription tower was completely still. Luo Qingtong's strangeness left him at a loss. He didn't know where the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City found such an inscription genius. He had never heard of this name in the Central Inscription Association. Even that person from the Federation of Trade Unions couldn't be compared to her, right? He was actually so gifted. When he thought about how Luo Qingtong had summoned the battle inscription mark on the 6th level, Master Chen's face was filled with apprehension. But fortunately, when he threw Song Cheng towards the entrance of the 7th level, he saw Xie Qi rushing up. To save Song Cheng, Xie Qi will definitely crash into the entrance of the 7th level. Chapter 23:47. And now, there was no movement in the inscription tower, which confirmed his guess. The light at the entrance to the 7th floor was incomparably powerful, and even he was severely injured. Not to mention that when the president wanted to enter, he was almost seriously injured and had to recuperate for countless years. If it wasn't for this, how could this inscription tower have landed in this Heavenly Wind Inscription City? Now that there was no movement in the inscription tower, it was obvious that this was because Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng had both died in the light at the entrance to the 7th floor. He could escape from the light at the entrance by luck, but the other party couldn't, especially since all of the other party's abilities and sources of comprehension came from the inscription tower. Thinking of this, Master Chen laughed complacently. He felt relieved. Tianfeng Inscription City Lord. There's no movement in the inscription tower. The two of them have already died in the inscription tower. The battle for the Tianfeng Inscription Tower has ended with the victory of our Lungyu Inscription City. The Tianfeng Inscription Tower is ours, he proudly said to the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others. The latter and the others had yet to recover from his words. Hearing his words, the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord's vision instantly darkened. He looked at him in disbelief and said, "What did you say?" "Cheng-er, that they have already completely died at the entrance to the 7th floor." Master Chen laughed coldly. "You people from Tianfeng Inscription City own the inscription tower, so you should naturally know what the 7th floor of the inscription tower represents, right?" he said shamelessly. "After the two of them threw me out of the inscription tower, they overestimated themselves and wanted to force their way into the 7th floor. Now, you can see the result. There's no movement in the inscription tower. They're already dead." When the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others heard this, it was as if they were struck by lightning. They had yet to recover from the shock of Song Cheng and Luo Qingtong having extremely strong talent, especially Luo Qingtong being a spirit seal master. When they heard Master Chen say that they had already died in the inscription tower, everyone wanted to suspect that Master Chen was lying. However, if what the other party said was false, now that Master Chen had been thrown out, they should have joined forces to come out. However, there was no movement from the inscription tower. Not only that, he didn't even see the light of Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng being knocked out of the inscription tower. It was very obvious that Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng might really have died in the inscription tower, just as Master Chen had said. Chapter 23:48. When his voice rang out, the people of Tianfeng Inscription City finally came back to their senses. A high-level inscription master from Heavenly Wind Inscription City took a deep breath, and then he shouted loudly, "Wait! Our Tianfeng Inscription City has indeed lost to the inscription tower. But what about the bet that Lungyu Inscription City Lord made with us?" Everyone's hearts were filled with grief. However, this wasn't the time to be sad and despair. Although Luo Qingtong and Song Chung didn't return alive and were ambushed by the people of Lung Yu Inscription City and seized the Tianfeng Inscription Tower. However, because they had made a bet with Lung Yu Inscription City Lord, they had won the last chance of survival for the people of Tianfeng Inscription City. The senior inscription master from Tianfeng Inscription City suppressed the grief in his heart and said coldly, "According to the contents of the bet, our junior brother, Cheng won against Lung Yu Inscription City Lord. There shouldn't be a problem, right?" When his voice rang out, the group of people from Tianfeng Inscription City recovered from their grief and looked at Master Chun and the others. "That's right. Although our people from Tianfeng Inscription City lost the Inscription Tower, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord and the others also lost the bet. And among them, you are included." Tianfeng Inscription City Lord recovered from his grief and said coldly to Master Chun, "I wonder what you are going to do." When the words of Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others came out, Master Chen's face instantly turned ugly. Only now did he remember that Lung Yu Inscription City Lord, that idiot, had agreed to the bet with Song Chung and the others before fighting for the tower. Originally, this bet, in his opinion, was no different from Song Chung and the others sending themselves to their doorstep. In his heart, he was also willing to accept this bet. In the end, who would have thought that Song Chung and his disciple would be so abnormal? Forget about that Xie Qi, who was an inscription genius from who knows where. But that Song Chung, how did he raise his inscription talent to such a high level? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. He was actually tricked by them. He looked at Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others with an ugly expression. If he denied that he was a member of Lung Yu City at this moment, then the Inscription Tower battle this time would lose its effectiveness. Since he wasn't a member of Lung Yu Inscription City, he naturally couldn't represent the people of Lung Yu Inscription City to seize the ownership of the Inscription Tower. However, if he was from Cold Jade Inscription City, then he would have to fulfill his bet with Song City. If Cold Jade Inscription City Lord lost the bet, then he would have to cripple his own inscription ability. These people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City really knew how to grab hold of information. Damn it! When Master Chun looked at Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others with an ugly expression, the latter also looked at him with a cold and determined expression. "Master Chun, what do you think? Please give me your answer." Either the other party would give up the ownership of the Inscription Tower, or they would cripple their own inscription skills. It all depended on the other party's choice. When they thought about how this was an opportunity that Luo Qingtong and Song Chung had created for them, the group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City burst into tears. They couldn't hold it in at all. "Master Chen, what do you think?" The group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City asked in unison. And the group of people from Lung Yu Inscription City couldn't bear it at all. They looked at Master Chun, especially Lung Yu Inscription City Lord. His body was trembling violently. Chapter 2349. When he was knocked out of the tower, he didn't think of the bet. Now that the people of Tianfeng Inscription City had pointed it out, he instantly shuddered. One had to know that he had bet his life with the people of Tianfeng Inscription City. At most, the other people in Lung Yu Inscription City didn't have the strength of inscriptions. But he had to pay with his life. When Lung Yu Inscription City Lord thought of this, he was about to cry. He regretted his actions to the extreme. Why did he have such a cheap mouth before? Why did he have to bet with that poor bastard Song Chung? This time, the other party was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. He had hidden his strength and tricked him. Lung Yu Inscription City Lord suspected that Song Chung was purposely scaring them when he said that he was going to use that formation to find his disciple. Otherwise, how could the inscription man-searching formation go wrong? It was obvious that Song Chung and the others wanted to lower their guard. In the end, in this battle for the tower, they wanted him to make a bet with them, because he was complacent and confident. Damn it, they were too sinister. They were too shameless. When Lung Yu Inscription City Lord thought of this, he couldn't even cry anymore. He trembled as he begged Master Chun, Master Chun. Why don't we? Let's forget about it. Before he could finish his sentence, Master Chin's face darkened and he slapped him across the face, sending him flying. Shut up. Master Chin's face was gloomy. If it wasn't for this idiot, how could he be forced to such a state by the people of Tianfeng Inscription City? Master Chin didn't mention that he also agreed to this bet. He said coldly to Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others, "We will naturally accept this bet." Just as he finished speaking, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord, whose face was swollen and half of his teeth had fallen out, shook his head like a madman. He wanted to stand up and rush over to deny Master Chin's words. However, the latter's powerful aura enveloped him and instantly froze him on the spot. "You people of Tianfeng Inscription City, get ready. Tomorrow, we will come and take over the Inscription Tower. At that time, the people of our Cold Jade Inscription City will naturally fulfill the bet." As he spoke, he glanced at Lung Yu Inscription City Lord. Then, he led Lung Yu Inscription City Lord and the others out of the Inscription Square. As for Lung Yu, the City Lord and the others, after receiving the signal from his eyes, also hesitated and calmed down. Following him, they stammered and left. "Master," Lung Yu uncovered his swollen face and said to him hesitantly, "We won't really fulfill the bet, right?" If it weren't for Master Chin's warning look, he would have fought with his life on the line. Naturally, the City Lord of Cold Jade Inscription City was not willing to take the Inscription Tower. Instead, he wanted his own life. As for the other people from Cold Jade Inscription City, they naturally didn't want to lose their inscription power. They didn't want the Inscription Tower as much as Master Chin did. After all, even if he couldn't get it this time, there would be another chance. However, that was not the case for Master Chun. Luo Qingtong's appearance caused his heart to be filled with vigilance. He suspected that his actions had already been discovered by someone. If that was the case, then he definitely couldn't miss this opportunity to obtain the Inscription Tower. Because if he had to wait for another 10 years, he would lose his patience. He had to obtain the item on the 7th level. Of course not. Chapter 2350. After killing the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord and the others, let's see who would dare to propose the matter of fulfilling the bet with them. Without the person who signed the bet with them, this bet would be useless, right? That Master Chin sneered. Lung Yu and the others were overjoyed when they heard this. That's right. Why didn't they think of such a method? Master Chun is wise. After we return, we will immediately make the arrangements, he said with a proud and high-spirited expression. With a chance to live and obtain the Inscription Tower, why wouldn't Lung Yu Inscription City Lord do it? Furthermore, at this time, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord could also sense something. Master Chun came to their Lung Yu Inscription City this time to help them obtain the Inscription Tower of the Heavenly Wind Inscription City. It was definitely not for the battle inscription mark of the peak of the human martial realm that he mentioned before. Wasn't this a very simple matter? Master Chun was clearly not only a beginner spirit seal master, but also an even more powerful inscription master. He didn't know if he was an earth-level spirit seal master or a heaven-level spirit seal master. Not only that, he was also a battle spirit master. Since that was the case, what else was worth coveting for the battle inscription mark of the peak of the human martial realm? The only thing that could make him covet it was something else in the inscription tower, right? Thinking of this, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord's heart skipped a beat. He thought of the 7th floor of the inscription tower in the Heavenly Wind Inscription City. It was said that the 7th floor was extremely mysterious. When the people of the Heavenly Wind Inscription City obtained this inscription tower, they had once mentioned that even the president of the Inscription Association couldn't enter the 7th floor. They told the inscriptionists who entered to cultivate and improve themselves not to touch the 7th floor. And because the 6th floor of the inscription tower was something that only those who were about to break through to the Spirit Seal Master realm could barely touch, no one paid special attention to the 7th floor. As for Lung Yu Inscription City Lord and the others, they just listened and didn't pay special attention to it. Now that he thought that this Master Chun might have other motives, he immediately thought of this matter. In an instant, his heart was fiercely shocked. However, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord didn't dare to say a word. So what if he saw through Master Chin's intentions weren't simple? The things on the 7th floor had nothing to do with them. If even the president of the Federation of Trade Unions couldn't obtain it, then there was no need for people like them to even think about it. Whatever Master Chun wanted to do was none of their business. They only needed to obtain the inscription tower. Thinking about this, Lung Yu Inscription City Lord became happy again. The group of people rushed back to the place where they were staying. In the Inscription Plaza, the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City gritted their teeth as they watched Lung Yu and the others leave. Master, an inscription master from Sky Wind Inscription City, covered his wound and said to Sky Wind Inscription City Lord, Lung Yu Inscription City's people must be up to no good. That Master Chun said that they will come tomorrow to take the inscription tower and fulfill the bet. I'm afraid, before he could finish his words, the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord had already dejectedly shook his head and said, I know what you mean. As he spoke, he sighed heavily and said, But our Heavenly Wind Inscription City has no other choice. The Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord's words were filled with sadness. Chapter 2351. With the Lung Yu City Lord and the others, how could they fulfill the bet and cripple their own inscription strength? Even if they were willing, how could the Lung Yu City Lord hand over his own life? Therefore, when Master Chun said that he would come tomorrow to take the inscription tower and fulfill the bet, there must be a trap. But even so, they had no way to stop the other party. After all, they didn't say when they would fulfill the bet. The people of Lung Yu City didn't say that they wouldn't fulfill it, but said that they would fulfill it tomorrow. This matter was reasonable. The Tianfeng Inscription City Lord couldn't stop them just like that. Thus, even if they knew that there was a trap behind their departure, the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others had no way to stop them. Sigh, the heavens really want our Tianfeng Inscription City to die. Originally, they thought that with the bet signed by Luo Qingtong and Song Chung, they could force the people of Lung Yu City to give in. However, they were clearly about to succeed. That Master Chun had messed up the situation. It was obvious that the other party was determined to obtain the inscription tower. Just what was it that could make him so unwilling to give up? Thinking of this, the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord's heart suddenly jumped as he raised his head to look at the towering 7th floor of the inscription tower. Could it be? While the Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others were confronting the people of Lung Yu City, Luo Qingtong had already seen the layout of the 7th floor. The layout of the 7th floor was completely different from the previous 6 floors. The 7th floor was a vast expanse of emptiness. White mist floated in the surroundings, clustered around Luo Qingtong and Song Chung like clouds. The two of them were surrounded by a vast expanse of emptiness, and there were no pillars in sight. If it wasn't for the fact that they had indeed crashed into the 7th floor, Luo Qingtong would have thought that they were no longer in the inscription tower. This is where the 7th floor is. When Luo Qingtong sized up the 7th floor, Song Chung was also very surprised. He looked left and right. To Song Chung, he had never even entered the inscription tower before, so it was naturally strange. However, in order to deal with the people from Lung Yu Inscription City, he didn't take a good look at the scene in the inscription tower. He only took a casual glance. Looking at the scene on the 7th floor, he was shocked. This was because the space on the 7th floor looked like an independent space. Unlike the previous 6 floors, there was not the slightest bit of oppressive aura here. Otherwise, Song Chun would not be so carefree here. He didn't have Luo Qingtong's inscription talent to share with him. If there was an inscription aura here, he would have been sent flying long ago. While Song Chung was looking left and right, Luo Qingtong's gaze was fixed on a certain spot in the inscription tower. She had a feeling that the thing that had been faintly attracting her when she entered the inscription tower was right there. Could that be what Master Chen was looking for? Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She looked at the scene around her and wasn't sure if she should go over and take a look. After all, the space on the 7th floor was too strange. No one knew what was going to happen or what kind of danger was waiting for them. Chapter 23:52. Luo Qingtong was bold because of her skills, but that didn't mean that she didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. She wouldn't do anything that she wasn't sure of. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. She couldn't see through it. The entire space of the 7th floor was still the same as before in her crimson eyes. There must be some kind of powerful force shrouding this place. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she wanted to take Song Chung and leave. After all, it wouldn't be good if she took the risk and implicated Song Chung. She would have plenty of chances to enter the 7th floor to investigate after she secured the inscription tower. However, just as Luo Qingtong thought about it, she suddenly turned around and discovered that Song Chung was no longer beside her. He was still here just a moment ago. Luo Qingtong even saw him from the corner of her eyes. "What's going on?" Luo Qingtong let out a low grunt and asked Little Pig on her shoulder, "Did you see how my master disappeared?" No. Little Pig was also astonished by this development. He saw Song Chung just a moment ago, but his mother and baby disappeared into the boundless surroundings in a flash. "It's this white fog." Little Pig raised his little hoof and pointed at the white fog that was gathering around Luo Qingtong. It seems like he disappeared when the white fog gathered around him. If Song Chung moved, not only Little Pig, but also Luo Qingtong would have sensed it. However, the latter just disappeared right in front of them. It was obvious that this white fog was the cause of this strange phenomenon. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She raised her hand and reached into the white fog in front of her. However, nothing happened. It seemed like this white fog was only targeting Song Chung. Thinking about how Song Chung had entered the 7th floor first and accidentally found a way to enter here, Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed slightly. "Let's go." It was impossible to leave now. Without finding Song Chung, how could Luo Qingtong leave this place alone? After probing the white mist for a while and finding that it had no reaction to her, she immediately waved the sword in her hand and rushed in the direction that gave her a special feeling. She had a feeling that if Song Chung had gone missing, it was very likely that he was there. While Luo Qingtong was flying in that direction, Little Pig, who was perched on her shoulder, was sizing up the 7th floor of the inscription tower. The more it looked at him, the stranger its expression became. This place, Little Pig raised his little hoof and scratched his head. He didn't know if his feeling was right or not. The feeling this place gave him was clearly. Just as it was thinking, Luo Qingtong had already followed the feeling in her heart and arrived at a strange place. When the surrounding fog broke apart, an open space was revealed. On the empty ground, there was a huge stone tablet. The runes on the stone stele seemed to be alive as they swam about on the surface of the stone stele. They were dazzling and golden in color, and Song Chung was right under the golden stone tablet. The golden runes swam about on the stone tablet and projected their own light downwards. The light enveloped Song Cheng's body and covered him in a layer of golden light. Seeing this scene, Little Pig's eyes instantly widened. His mouth formed an O shape as he exclaimed, "F***CK. That old man Tian Mingzi, did he really put this thing here?" Chapter 23:53. When Little Pig spoke, Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked, "Do you know what this is?" She looked at the golden stone tablet and Song Chung, who was wrapped in a large cocoon, and her eyes narrowed. The golden light didn't seem to cause any harm to Song Chung. Therefore, when Luo Qingtong arrived, she didn't have any intention of pulling Song Chung out. When she looked at the golden light, she could vaguely feel a boundless and majestic aura coming from it. Even if there was only a trace of this aura in the golden light, it made her feel as if she was facing the universe. "This is..." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. At this moment, Little Pig jumped up and said, "Of course I know. You should know too." Little Pig suddenly exclaimed and said to Luo Qingtong, "I forgot that after you left the Tianyu Empire, you never entered the 9-story exquisite pagoda again. Did you notice that this inscription pagoda is similar to the 9-story exquisite pagoda? You forgot that your inscription technique was cultivated in the 9-story exquisite pagoda." Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows when she heard Little Pig's voice. Little Pig was right. When she first learned the theory of inscription technique from Song Chung, she spent most of her time cultivating in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. The second floor of the 9-story exquisite pagoda had the ability to slow down time. At the same time, she could use the power of the 9-story exquisite pagoda to carve inscription marks in the air. This allowed her to carve and inscribe again and again, allowing her to master the most basic inscription technique. When Luo Qingtong thought of this, her thoughts suddenly stopped. Inscription pagoda, 9-story exquisite pagoda. She looked at Little Pig. When Little Pig saw that she seemed to have understood, he immediately jumped up and said to her, "Look at you. Do you remember now? This inscription pagoda is a replica of the 9-story exquisite pagoda. It doesn't have the ability to slow down time like the 9-story exquisite pagoda, but this engraving technique that can turn the pressure of the inscription pagoda into power is a replica of the 9-story exquisite pagoda. No wonder I always felt strange when I entered this place. Check carefully. See if the place in your heart that resonates with the inscription pagoda is from the 9-story exquisite pagoda." When Little Pig's words came out, Luo Qingtong's mind immediately looked at the 9-story exquisite pagoda in her sea of her mind. Sure enough, he saw it spinning around in his sea of consciousness. No wonder she sensed a familiar aura the moment she entered the inscription tower. At that time, the pagoda, the 9-story exquisite pagoda. After all, who would have thought that this inscription tower was actually an imitation of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda? Was to the 9-story pagoda was exquisite pagoda. Luo Qingtong had long passed the time when she needed to carve inscriptions in the 9-story exquisite pagoda, so she didn't think of it. Not to mention her, even Little Pig didn't think of it. If he didn't see the golden stone tablet, he wouldn't have been able to confirm that the inscription pagoda was a replica of the 9-story exquisite pagoda. This golden stone tablet is the source of the pressure in the inscription pagoda. At the same time, Chapter 2354. Look at the golden runes on the stone tablet. Don't they have a boundless aura of the great Tao? This aura is comparable to the heavenly Tao. No wonder no one can break through to the 7th floor. This must be the weird way that old man Tian Mingzi came up with to enter. What a bad taste. Little Pig muttered in his heart as he spoke. That old man Tian Mingzi really knew how to play games. The 7th floor had the aura of the divine inscription. No wonder even the president of the Central Inscription Association couldn't enter and was almost seriously injured. With the aura of the great Tao inscription, who could force their way in? Perhaps only Luo Qingtong, who possessed the genuine aura of the 9-fold exquisite pagoda, could do it. Little Pig could imagine that if Song Chung hadn't accidentally entered the inscription tower, Luo Qingtong would have been suppressed to a certain extent by the aura of the 7th floor's entrance, and the 9-fold exquisite pagoda would have rushed out to protect its owner. At that time, once the aura appeared, the entrance to the 7th floor would have opened for Luo Qingtong. As Little Pig spoke, Luo Qingtong immediately raised her head to look at Song Chung and asked, "What's going on with him now? What's going on?" Of course, it's to refine his inscription talent. He's lucky. Little Pig looked at Song Chung, who was enveloped by the golden stone tablet, and said, "Who would have thought that Song Chung, a person with 0 inscription talent, will be brought to the 6th floor of the inscription tower by Luo Qingtong's inscription talent sharing? After that, he accidentally entered the 7th floor. After all, the defense of the 7th floor was only set up for inscription masters with inscription talent. Who would have thought that Song Chung, a person with no inscription talent, would be able to enter, in the hiding place of the inscription of God, even if it only contained a trace of aura for an inscription master? It was a great opportunity. One had to know that before obtaining the divine inscription, Tian Mingzi and the others couldn't create a divine inscription weapon. After obtaining the divine inscriptions, they comprehended them day and night and created the life and death duality sword, a weapon of the great Tao. It could be said to be a semi-divine artifact. Wasn't it because they were enveloped and enhanced by the gods' inscriptions? Their inscription talent had been raised to the extreme, and their own inscription strength had broken through again and again. If it weren't for that accident, it would have been impossible for the people of Sky Ming Palace to be destroyed. That's right. The true name of the Immortal Slayer Palace was the Sky Ming Palace, bearing heaven's fortune, carving inscriptions. Luo Qingtong used to think that the name Immortal Slayer Palace was too vicious. She didn't know that the Sky Ming Palace used to be so arrogant and unbridled. The #1 sect in the world. This was the fame and prestige of Sky Engraving Palace in the endless starry skies. It was a pity that it had turned into smoke and no longer existed. When Luo Qingtong heard Little Pig's words, she immediately raised her eyebrows. So you're saying that these golden runes are the divine inscriptions? Luo Qingtong looked at the golden characters on the steel. Yes and no. Little Pig scratched his head and said, I don't know the details. I heard some of it when that old man Tian Mingzi was nagging in the underground palace. In any case, the Immortal Slayer Palace was destroyed because of the divine inscription. It was that stinky old man Tian Mingzi who escaped. But before they were destroyed, they seemed to have transferred the divine inscription away. The ones here should be a small part of it, Little Pig said. Chapter 2355. No. Hearing its words, Luo Qingtong suddenly shook her head. It's not here. The aura contained in these golden lights was too weak. It only had a trace of divine charm. Luo Qingtong felt the power of the inscription of God when she used the life and death dual swords to split the thunder calamity. The aura contained in these golden lights was not even 1% of that of the inscription of God. It was definitely not a part of the inscription of God. It was very likely that it was the aura of the inscription of God left by Tian Mingzi. It indicated the whereabouts and location of the inscription of God. As Luo Qingtong said this, Songqing opened his eyes in a daze under the golden stone tablet. Disciple? Songqing only felt that when he looked around, his vision suddenly turned black, and he didn't know anything. How did he suddenly appear here inexplicably? He opened his mouth wide and looked at the scene where he was wrapped in a pile of golden lights. He wanted to struggle out of it, but was stopped by Luo Qingtong. Master, don't move. These golden lights are improving your inscription talent. Luo Qingtong could see that after the aura of the golden runes entered Songqing's body, they turned into inscription patterns one after another, immersing themselves in his limbs and bones. There were also some that directly entered his mind. With these inscription patterns, if Songqing wanted to learn any inscription patterns in the future, he would not be like before, unable to understand the meaning and inscribe it. Because these inscription patterns, accompanied by the aura of the golden lights, had all entered his body. Therefore, Luo Qingtong stopped Songqing. When the latter heard her words, he was stunned. Help him improve his inscription talent? What did this mean? When Songqing heard this, he stammered, Disciple. Disciple. Are you kidding me? Songqing lay on the ground stiffly, not daring to move. His heart was beating like a drum. Improve his inscription talent? Was this a joke? How is this possible? A person's inscription talent was born with it. Songqing was already overjoyed that Luo Qingtong was able to use some means to temporarily give him the inscription talent. But now Luo Qingtong said that he could improve the inscription talent. After the improvement, would he be able to become an inscription master in the future? He no longer had to worry about not having enough talent, being too stupid, and not being able to understand. Songqing was so excited that his hands were trembling. That's right. Luo Qingtong looked at his incredulous expression and chuckled softly. It's exactly what you think, Master. So be obedient and don't move. Such an opportunity was extremely hard to find. Moreover, Luo Qingtong didn't know if every inscription tower sent out by the Central Inscription Union had such an effect. If only this inscription tower had traces of divine inscriptions, then if Song Chung missed this opportunity, he didn't know when he would be able to increase his inscription talent again. After hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Song Chung didn't dare to move in an instant. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's gaze suddenly froze. The golden light enveloping Song Cheng's body became more and more intense. Within the golden stone tablet, layer after layer fell off, revealing a strange inscription pattern. Chapter 2356. As the inscription pattern appeared, the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand trembled. Then with a buzz, it tried to break free from her hand and rush toward the huge stone tablet. Luo Qingtong frowned when she felt the strange movement of the life and death sword in her hand. Life and death sword? She lowered her head and looked at the life and death sword in her hand. When she thought of the divine inscription that had been integrated into it, she narrowed her eyes and raised her hand. In an instant, the life and death sword flew out of her hand and rushed toward the huge stone tablet. Boom! As the life and death dual polarity sword approached the huge stone tablet, the strange inscription pattern engraved on the stone tablet suddenly shone brightly. A unique and majestic aura blasted toward the life and death sword from it. At this moment, the life and death sword also emitted an aura that was almost of the same origin as the sword. It's the divine inscription, Little Pig exclaimed when he felt the aura. I didn't expect the rune pattern of the divine inscription to be hidden on this stone tablet. Little Pig watched as the aura of the rune pattern entered the life and death sword. In an instant, the auras of the two were drawn to each other. The shape of a map instantly appeared in midair. In other words, the strange inscription pattern kept elongating in midair. Its aura lingered around it, elongating the scattered lines of the inscription pattern into a map. Swoosh! After the map flashed in midair, it immediately went into the life and death yin-yang sword. It's the hiding place of the divine inscription. It must be. Little Pig chuckled as he looked at the map that flashed in midair. His beady eyes twinkled as he laughed mischievously. That old man Tian Mingzi is not bad. He actually knows how to use this method to hide the location of the divine inscription. And the level of the inscription tower he chose is just right. Even if Song Chung didn't summon you this time, this is the inscription tower of the 6-star domain. When you enter the extraterrestrial domain and want to learn inscriptions, you will definitely choose to come here. At that time, I will still be able to discover the location of the divine inscription. Those dregs who annihilated the immortal Slayer Palace probably wouldn't have thought that Tian Mingzi would hide such an important existence like the inscription of God in a low-level 6 inscription tower. Ha ha ha! When Little Pig's voice rang out, Luo Qingtong raised her hand to summon the life and death yin-yang sword back. She looked at Little Pig indifferently and said, "Those people didn't discover it, but that doesn't mean that no one else did." She narrowed her eyes as she spoke. If that was the case, why would Master Chen come here? He wanted the item on the 7th floor. Did he sense the existence of the god's inscription, or was there some other reason? However, regardless of why the other party had come, the whereabouts of the god's inscription on the 7th floor must not be exposed. The news that he had obtained something from the 7th floor must not be leaked. Luo Qingtong had already sentenced Master Chen to death in her mind. After she left this place, he would immediately think of a way to make his move. He wouldn't let the other party have the chance to spread the news of what had happened on the 7th floor. Chapter 2357. By the way, We have to find a way to seal that Master Chen's mouth. When the time comes, let's kill him quietly." Little Pig cupped his cheeks with his hoof and said, although he had not recovered his strength, there were still people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. They might not have to do it themselves. As long as they could get out of the Inscription Tower, they would become the benefactors of Heavenly Wind Inscription City. Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord and the others would be very willing to help them deal with Master Chun. After all, Master Chun was from Lungyu Inscription City. Okay, Luo Qingtong nodded calmly. Then, she looked at the life and death sword in her hand. After the life and death sword absorbed the light and aura emitted by the inscription pattern, the black and white luster on its body shone brightly. They meandered around like two dragons intertwining with each other. The lights seemed to be fusing and resisting at the same time. They were opposing each other and suddenly fusing together. Luo Qingtong could easily feel that the life and death sword was different from before. Buzz! She raised her hand. In an instant, the black and white lights moved according to her will and intertwined in midair to form a gray aura. In these auras, life and death were intertwined and exchanged. Luo Qingtong looked at these auras and suddenly, her heart skipped a beat. Life and death order. Reincarnation cycle? This line of words appeared in her mind out of nowhere. As soon as her voice sounded, the gray aura seemed to have received some kind of command and instantly changed. The auras rotated and formed the shape of token. One moment it was white, and the next moment it was black. The cycle of life and death was completely traceless. This as Luo Qingtong looked at the life and death token that was formed in midair in surprise. The fusion and transformation of black and white. She suddenly understood what had happened to the life and death sword. The life and death chi had fused. Previously, the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand was separated by the life and death chi. When she needed to use the life blade and the death blade, she also needed to change forms. But now, after the life and death dual polarity sword absorbed the strange inscriptions on the stone tablet, it immediately fused with the sword. Its two forms fused together. Life and death chi also began to entangle with each other. In the future, when Luo Qingtong used the life and death yin-yang sword again, she didn't need to switch between the two forms. She could control it at will. Not only that, Luo Qingtong struck out with her sword. In an instant, the sharp sword chi of the life and death yin-yang sword left a sharp and deep gash on the ground of the 7th floor. However, in the next second, Luo Qingtong's thoughts turned. In an instant, that deep and sharp cut was restored to its original state. The transformation between life energy and death energy was completely within Luo Qingtong's thoughts. This included the wound that Luo Qingtong had inflicted. Luo Qingtong chuckled, her voice as clear as a silver bell. The sword flower in her hand was extremely beautiful. She sheathed her sword in an instant and felt an indescribable joy in her heart. The transformation of the life and death yin-yang sword was very much in line with her wishes. With this sword, when she killed anyone in the future, she could catch them off guard and catch them off guard. Chapter 2358. When she thought of this, Luo Qingtong's laughter became even more cheerful. No wonder Tan Mingzi said it was only a semi-divine tool. It turns out that the life and death sword still has room for improvement. Luo Qingtong was looking forward to finding all the divine inscriptions in the future. When she reforged the life and death sword, she wondered what kind of amazing effects it would have. If she could really control life and death and reverse the cycle of reincarnation, how delightful and surprising would that be? After all, life, death, and reincarnation were all existences that could only be touched by the heavenly Tao. If she could do this, the life and death sword would definitely be the #1 divine weapon in the world. She thought about how the heavenly Tao was jealous of Yi Qianqian's aptitude and didn't hesitate to rupture his meridians and kill him at the age of 28. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a cold smile. If she could find all the divine inscriptions, even if she couldn't find a way to lift the curse on Yi Qianqian's heavenly vain physique, she could still let Yi Qianqian live for a long time. Even if she had to go against the heavens, she would protect her man. If the heavens wanted to destroy him, she would save him. For some reason, Luo Qingtong's heart suddenly palpitated when she thought of this. She didn't know when she had said the same words before. Resolute, domineering, insufferably arrogant, and mighty. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. At this moment, Little Pig beside her also shouted, "That's right. When we find all the divine inscriptions, we'll reforge the life and death sword. TSK, TSK, TSK. That would be awesome. Master, you must be the first one to lift the seal for me." Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong eagerly. He was really annoyed to be locked in this soft and cute body. He had no fighting power at all. Every time he used his strength, he had to wait for a long time to recover. This was simply ruining his reputation. Luo Qingtong raised her brows when she heard Little Pig's words. This was the first time she heard Little Pig mention that she wanted to remove the seal on him. Did she have to wait until the life and death yin-yang sword was completely reforged before she could remove its seal? The strength of its main body was actually so strong? Luo Qingtong pondered and was about to ask Little Pig. But at this moment, Song Chung woke up. "Disciple, I'm done." The golden light around him had completely dissipated. When a strange inscription pattern appeared, the golden light that enveloped his body began to slowly weaken. When Luo Qingtong's life and death yin-yang sword absorbed the strange inscription pattern, the golden light on his body dissipated completely. Song Chung finally dared to make a move. He got up like a carp and ran to Luo Qingtong's side. "Yes." Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. Then they heard a series of ka-ka-ka sounds. Cracks continuously spread out on the huge stone tablet. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed. She made a prompt decision and asked Little Pig, "No, this stone tablet can't be destroyed. Do you have any way to stop it?" Luo Qingtong's eyes were very serious as she watched the stone tablet violently and the huge rocks rolling down. She couldn't let anyone know that she had obtained the item on the 7th floor. If this stone tablet collapsed, wouldn't the inscription tower lose its effect? Chapter 2359. If someone from the Inscription Association came to investigate, they might even suspect her. Although Luo Qingtong had concealed her appearance and her gender, Luo Qingtong didn't know what to do. However, the people from Song City and Heavenly Wind Inscription City had nowhere to hide. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, her brows furrowed tightly. At this time, Little Pig said, "It's fine. This inscription tower is a replica of the 9-layer, exquisite pagoda. You just need to draw out the aura of the 9-layer, exquisite pagoda. That old man Tian Mingzi won't let others know that you have the whereabouts of the god's inscription." As soon as Little Pig finished speaking, Luo Qingtong immediately drew out the aura of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda from her mind. In an instant, when the huge stone tablet came into contact with the aura of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda, it immediately stabilized. The cracks on the stone tablet disappeared. On the stone tablet, inscription patterns appeared one after another. The huge stone tablet was stabilized once again. At the same time, Luo Qingtong could faintly feel the aura of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda coming into contact with the stone tablet. The 7 floors of the inscription tower were all under her control. As long as she willed it, she could control every inch of the inscription tower space. Feeling this, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly lit up. As expected, that old man Tian Mingzi has already made arrangements. Little Pig laughed mischievously when he saw that the stone tablet had stabilized. With Tian Mingzi's craftiness, if the stone tablet encountered the real owner, Luo Qingtong, he would naturally be able to use the aura of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda to stabilize it. After all, this inscription tower was a replica of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. It was extremely easy to control this inscription tower. However, if Luo Qingtong didn't obtain the whereabouts of the god's inscription, then that person would be in big trouble. If the inscription tower collapsed and was destroyed, everyone would know in an instant. At that time, they would be hunted down all over the world. Speaking of which, the Central Inscription Association actually had so many inscription towers. This was the specialty of the Immortal Slayer Palace back then. Without a unique method, it was impossible to activate these inscription towers. Before Little Pig entered the inscription tower, he didn't know that the inscription tower was a replica of the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. Now that it was confirmed, it knew that there must be a problem. The Central Inscription Union is probably an enemy of the Immortal Slayer Palace. To be able to drive these inscription towers, there must be a traitor among them. It said to Luo Qingtong. Traitor? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at it. Yes, the one who betrayed the Immortal Slayer Palace and caused them to be annihilated. Little Pig said, "Don't tell me you think that such a powerful sect with such powerful inscription technique and inheritance would be easily annihilated by others. If that's the case, they wouldn't have been able to exist in the endless starfield. After all, the inscription technique was coveted by many, and the inscription weapons and inscription diagrams were so powerful. You're saying that there was a traitor in the Immortal Slayer Palace, and that was why they were annihilated?" "Yes." Little Pig nodded. "I also heard it from that old man Tian Mingzi when he had nothing to do. Didn't he also tell you that he led the wolf into the house?" Chapter 2360. I got it. At that time, she didn't want to inherit the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace, so she didn't pay much attention to it. But now, the enemy of the Immortal Slayer Palace was her enemy. Not to mention, she hated betrayal the most in her life. And the person who betrayed Tian Mingzi was obviously still deeply trusted by him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have destroyed an inscription sect like the Immortal Slayer Palace. Luo Qingtong still remembered Tian Mingzi's madness and sadness when he let her inherit the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace. She could even remember the gratified and evil smile on the other party's face when he left. To force such a sincere and cheerful old man, like an old urchin, to such an extent. Very good. She would remember that traitor. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed coldly. Now that she had accepted the inheritance of the Immortal Slayer Palace, she would definitely face the other party. If there was a chance, she would naturally be willing to make the first move. At the same time, she would also clean up the sect for that old man Tian Mingzi. Let's go. Let's leave this place first. The people outside should be waiting anxiously. We will slowly investigate the matter of the Inscription Association after we go back. Luo Qingtong said to Little Pig in her heart. She and Song Chung had stayed here for a long time, so they didn't know what was going on outside. Thinking about how Master Chun threw Song Chung at the entrance of the 7th floor, she had a feeling that he would do something after he went out. If he forcefully attacked the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City, it would be troublesome. Little Pig nodded and jumped into Luo Qingtong's sleeve. Its existence was too conspicuous. Luo Qingtong was still in a state of hiding her identity. He could not afford to reveal any flaws on her. Little Pig was still very reliable when it came to some serious matters. Song Chung was also a little anxious about the situation in Heavenly Wind Inscription City. Just like Luo Qingtong, he also didn't think that the people of Lungyu Inscription City would give up, especially since the shameless lord of Lungyu Inscription City had lost the bet with him. So it was very likely that he would take the risk. His inscription talent had increased, and he felt that his inscription skills were slowly rising. One had to know that Song Chung had been studying inscriptions for tens of years. His inscription foundation was extremely solid. If it wasn't for his talent being limited, with his hard work, who knows how strong his inscription skills would be. With the help of his inscription talent, his inscription skills shot up like a rocket. Soon, he was promoted to a senior inscriber. As his strength grew, so did Song Cheng's confidence. At the same time, he was even more worried about the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City. It's fine. Let's go down quietly. Don't alert anyone. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly, but she didn't stop Song Chung from rushing out. Now that she was in control of the inscription tower, she easily teleported herself and Song Chung to the first level. Let's go. By the time he left the inscription tower, it was already evening. Luo Qingtong looked at the darkening sky and silently left the inscription plaza with Song Chung. Because there was no movement from the inscription tower, no one knew that Luo Qingtong and Song Chung had left the inscription tower alive. At this time, in the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord's Mansion, the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord sighed at the moon. His heart was filled with unspeakable sorrow. That Master Chun was determined not to give up on the inscription tower. His disciple's sacrifice was actually useless. Qing Air, Master is useless. I'll let you die in vain. The Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord's tears flowed down his face. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.